This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
The top HBCU programs in the nation come to Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium this May 11th through 14th for the Black College World Series. The best Black college baseball teams in the NCAA Division II and the NAIA will battle for Black baseball's ultimate prize. Games will be streamed live at www.mybcsn.net. Tickets are available now online at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
Are you ready? It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st. Blurs, nerds, and geeks from across the universe will converge on the capital city to see celebrity guests such as The Last Dragon, Timok, Megan Tandy, and voice actor Dave Fennoy.
Hey, how you doing? I'm voice actor Dave Fennoy with a shout out to all my geeks, freaks, and urban nerds. Just want to let you know I'm going to be there and I want to meet you at the Urban NerdCon Gaming and Cosplay event. It's happening July 29th through the 31st in Montgomery, Alabama. Hope you want to meet me as much as I want to meet you.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier blurred event in the universe. Theurbannerdcon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
T. Madden & Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden & Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden & Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Bounty versus the old family dish towel. Drying with a fresh sheet of Bounty leaves your hands cleaner than a used dish towel that can carry and redistribute food residue. So ditch the dish towel for better hand hygiene. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Ever not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield, never not working.
Every time I open one of these bottles, I hear trumpets and big band music. The Creole seasoning is a sodium-free and sugar-free blend that's versatile enough to put on anything. One of the first blends I developed more than 8 years ago, the Creole seasoning has an unmistakable aroma, a bold flavor, and a little heat for character.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history. by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome to another live edition of the BCSN SportsWrap. We are back, and after a good period of vacationing, back again, ready for another live show. My name is Brian Fulford. That's AD Drew. AD, it's been a while. How you been, man? How's vacation life been treating you over the last couple weeks?
Oh, it's been lovely, man. Don't know how much rest I got, but definitely been getting some stuff done, you know. No, I haven't. I ain't gonna even lie to you. I've gotten absolutely nothing done that I really wanted to do over these 2 weeks since we've been off the air.
Yeah, no, I've gotten too much done. I've done a lot of moving. You know, as you can see, I'm not in my normal home studio. So I'm on the road, a remote location, probably not too hard to figure out if you really paid attention, but it's good to be where I'm at. And so for those of you, you know, in the Peach State, maybe you'll see me bumping around, cruising up and down 75, 85, north and south, doing some work for the band.
The band or the man next to the band?
The man next to the man and the man in the back seat too, or woman in the back seat. Exactly. Yeah.
Yes,
hey,
sir. Yes, sir.
We've as we hit this point, coming up to a close. I mean, I don't know when our anniversary date is, Drew. We were kind of talking about that earlier. Coming up towards the end of year 5. We've been doing this show for 5 years, and I think we normally kind of make the anniversary right around right around August. Isn't that kind of about the time when we kind of say, okay, let's turn the dial and go anniversary, right? Isn't that how we've been doing it?
Right. Pretty much, except we kind of, by default, since July 1 is like the beginning of the sports year for our colleges, we just kind of moved the date around to July, And yeah, we're getting ready to begin year 6 of a partnership of being on the air. 5 of them on video. Year 1 was on audio only for those of y'all who may have missed year 1.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Interesting time, when we used to be one of a few podcast show platforms that were covering HBCUs to the degree that we like to think we're covering it. But now, there's a lot more faces and a lot more places these days, and so it's pretty interesting seeing where things have come over the course of the past 5-6 years.
Yeah, some people, there have been some people who have been doing this longer than us. And there are some people who've just gotten started who think they've been doing this longer than us. So we'll just leave
I'm
that
not gonna get out
right
here and
there.
say.
And then there are some people who are fresh on the block, and everybody's doing good in what they do in their own space.
Exactly, man. Look,
There's plenty of HBCU sports to go around. I mean, we've got 84 schools that play sports. We've got
exactly.
101 HBCUs. There's plenty of us. You've got shows that focus specifically on an institution or two. You've got shows that focus on specific conferences. Where you and I have tried to carve our space out is dibbling, dabbling, and covering the whole HBCU diaspora. But you do have your specialty that, as FAMU alum, you decided to create an additional podcast called the ONG Strike Zone. So, and I frequently have guest host on many other people's podcasts. Got a couple of other projects that I'm working on. We'll announce those when those are ready to be launched. So, we're all getting it in our own space. There's no competition out here. We're not competing with each other. We're out here Okay, we're competing. We're competing. But more than anything, we're out here trying to enhance the whole HBCU diaspora.
At the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
Now we competing for those advertiser dollars. We definitely competing for those. Yeah, we
look,
want our
if
fair share
anything,
of those
that's
checks.
what we're competing for. Let's be real. We're competing for advertising dollars. Likes and thumbs up. They only get you so far. Sure, it'd be great to have more of them, no doubt. So if you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, go and hit that thumbs up button and go ahead. But
I just like the
hey,
algorithm.
look, I'll tell you
when
what,
the algorithm is saying people is on there.
Yeah, we're also competing for I would say more staff, more help. I mean, look, as we go into year 6, we'd love to be able to. I don't even think we've ever successfully tried to bring in, say, like an intern or somebody. Look, let's keep it real. There's not much of a budget here, right? So,
No.
not yet. We've been doing this out of pure love of the game, so to speak. So, but if you do happen to know somebody, right, who's interested, I'll make this pitch now. So if you know somebody who's interested in wanting to cut their teeth in this venue and say, hey, look, I can help do promo things and promo clips and flyers and some graphics and some other production. I mean, look, Black College Sports Network, we're looking for people that are interested in producing shows. We have a lot of opportunities here. So, there's opportunities here.
Let's take it one step further, Ryan. There's opportunities for youth, young adults, old adults, retired people to get in, not only in this space, but the entire BCSN and JBN family. I mean, if you know somebody who, camera people, production people, people like to be at the venues. We've had college students who have done play-by-play in color for us doing live broadcasts. Now that we can claim. We are the first to sit out here and get into this streaming space doing live broadcasts in this format. You and I have had the pleasure of calling many a games, many a sports together, uh, being play by play and color man. We've done some together, we've done some separately. So if you have young people who want to get in here, it's a great way to build your resume and learn this skill, because everybody can't do what we do, but there are plenty of people who can do what we do and specialize and take a certain skill and translate it into something further down the line, be it somebody's marketing department, or be it that that they're journalism or mass communications majors. Uh, People who want to write articles. Hey, we need writers. We need staff writers. You and I can't write every article. There are plenty of opportunities with and this has turned into a BCSN infomercial. It sounds like, Brian. But
well, might as well be. Hell, I mean, you're looking at two-thirds of the triumvirate that helps keep this boat, afloat. Hey, look, while the captain steers the ship, you on one side and I'm on the other side, just like row
your boat.
Row. Yeah, that's us. So we're those guys. As the captain's up there yelling row, we're like go. Yeah, so that's us. Yeah, so. Yeah, hey, it's all good, man. Look, and the one thing I will say, and we'll move forward here from this, I've enjoyed the conversations. Every chance we get to talk to another media member, another person who's doing their thing, we're creating their own content, covering, whether it be print, video, audio. Everybody has a unique perspective, and that's what we're trying to grow. So as you see, as the proliferation of HBCU athletics is now on the tongues of a lot of people, there's still a lot of people who are continuing to hone their craft and work on their craft. And so the more the merrier. It all helps. I'm not, we can get into other stuff later. But yeah, I just wanted to say that. Shout out to the folks who are already out there. I see Tamara T out there, David Garner, T-Dos. Appreciate the Chuck Hunt I saw in there. Yeah, we're going to talk about that soap opera at GSU, Graham Fam. That is definitely one. And so
one thing I want to throw out, Brian. I was telling you this story earlier. We talked about getting young people into this space. I was at the MVP Minority Baseball Prospects Collegiate League All-Star game this weekend.
Okay.
And in the ballpark, I was there to be the stadium PA announcer. Now batting so and so and so and so, do the announcements and do their ad reads in between innings. You know how it is when you go to a baseball game. But then I look up, and there is a 13-year-old kid.
What?
Up there, 13 years old. He's the DJ for the event.
Wow.
13 years old. DJ Money Mike was his name. Now, and he was probably one of the best stadium DJs for a baseball game I have ever witnessed, Ryan. And what made this kid great was he plays baseball. So he knew what to play, when to play it, and understood because he understood the game. Manager goes out to the mound. I hear the Jeopardy theme. Somebody steals a base. You hear the race car. Somebody makes a spectacular play. You get the ESPN da 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 da, and there were a couple of home runs. He played the appropriate sound bite for the home runs. He knew when to play the appropriate sound bite. I mean, the walk up music for everybody was on point. So the music in between, it wasn't all rap. It was a good mix of hip hop, older stuff. He even hit a blues song or two in between innings. Brian, this kid's 13 years old. Hit the blues
look.
song between innings.
What's his name? What's his? Do we have his name? Do you know his handle? Where can we?
DJ Money Mike.
That's an old school name for a 13-year-old, but okay.
Money Mike.
Money Mike. Do we know his Instagram, Twitter? Did you get any of that info?
No,
Did he say where we can follow him and find him?
I failed to do that. That's my bad because I had other things, but I do know how to get in touch with him.
Is he
I
in
passed information on to Mike Montgomery?
And where? Okay, so if you know DJ Money Mike in Montgomery, Alabama, 13 years old.
Tell him AD Drew from the BCSN SportsWrap shouted him out.
Look, I want to get the young man on the show selfishly for a couple reasons.
Right.
During the spring season, I like to do some PA stuff for my high school softball and baseball teams. I need him to show me some things. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm a visual learner, so once you show me, I can get it down. I need him to show me.
He had equipment.
Yeah. See?
He had his portable DJ. Now I did all the talking, but he was spinning and doing what he was doing. And I told him I used to DJ back in my day, but I didn't start really DJing until I actually post college. I didn't start DJing until I got out of till I left FAMU. But I was like, and I told his mother, I was like, I'm glad you made this investment in him because he's gonna make it one of two ways. If he don't make it on that diamond, he gonna make it. He gonna make it doing what he doing up here, spinning music.
Well said, man. Shout out to DJ Money Mike and from Montgomery, and shout out to the MVP. Minority Baseball Prospects doing the thing. That's a cool hat. I still never got my hat from a couple years ago. I need a hat like that. I need to talk to Coach. Coach Alex or oh my God, why can't I think of another coach?
Coach Hollins.
Coach Reggie. Hollins. Yeah, I need to talk to Coach Hollins next time I see. But that's a sweet hat there that MVP has. So shout out to MVP. Make sure you're following us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at MyBCSN1. If you have not already, go download that Jericho Broadcast Networks app on your Google or Apple Play Store. MyJBN, MyBCSN is where you can find us. Of course, our Twitter handles at DRB365 and at BCSN Drew. As I mentioned earlier, today we're going to get heavy into talking about the SIAC because they are the first HBCU football conference having their media day this upcoming Wednesday. That's one thing, Drew, I will say that I'm very proud of some of the coverage that we do with the SIAC. And I would say more SIAC than CIAA, but part of that is because you have an extensive background in the SIAC, but just spotlighting Division II overall, Division II and NAIA. As much talk as Division I gets, I really enjoy every now and then talking about, I shouldn't say every now and then, all the time, really, at the chances we get to talk about the NAIA Division II level, because there is some competitive football and competitive athletics in general, and I think it's real interesting that we can spotlight and talk about those things. So we're gonna get into heavy talking about the SIAC in today's show.
One thing I could say, Brian, and I will say this without hesitation or reservation. We here at the BCSN SportsWrap, you and I, probably cover the small. No, we don't probably. We do. We cover the small schools, the Division IIs, and the NAIAs more than anyone else out there in this genre. I will say that boastfully.
In this genre, okay, yeah. I mean, this genre, yeah.
Everybody else focuses on SWAC, BIAC, primarily on SWAC.
And look, hey, we spend a lot of time talking and running our gums and doing this over the audio format. But a lot of times we get some great info from the written words of people like Luke Williams, who does a great job of covering. Yeah, Stephen Gaither. I mean, obviously he's a CIAA alum. He and HBCU Game Day, they do a great job covering the CIAA and SIAC. Mr. Moore with Onedin, they do a great job of. Hey, even Alex Hines has gotten into this space of dropping some great nuggets and aggregating some great nuggets regarding the SIAC, and he's in CIAA country. So I think any chance that we get to talk about what's going on that level, it's pretty interesting. So there's some real interesting things that we will get into coming up a little bit later in the show. I guess we'll briefly touch on this, Drew. We've in the background, just to let people know, obviously the big story, big thing that people have been talking about over the last week, maybe week and a half, has been there's two big stories, I guess, that are happening right now. You've got, obviously, it seems like the annual, as my guy Kofi said, the annual talk of conference expansion and the conference churning, as Dr. Cavill has so eloquently coined. That is happening, although it's not really happening, it's theoretically happening. It's like it's out there. People are talking about it because obviously what happens at the highest level somehow has a trickle-down effect. Obviously, it does. And so as we've seen what's happened in the world of the Big Ten with UCLA and USC moving to the Big Ten, it all of a sudden started this chain reaction of, okay, what is the rest of the Pac-12, Big 12, ACC, and Notre Dame going to do? How does that affect the rest of the conferences in the FBS? How does that affect the FCS? And then, thusly, how does that affect HBCUs? And so here we are spinning into that conversation. And we're only going to touch on it a little bit because I know Doc has teased this, and we really talk. Next week, it'll be a good time because we'll probably all see each other next week. We're going to do a show. We might even have to pre-record it, Drew, but we're going to do a show and really kind of talk about all of the intricate levels of the conversation about expansion. Because I think you and I have talked in the background. We've talked everything from, you can talk about schools, but there's so many more facets to expansion than just television rights, which teams, because I think for the HBCU level, it's a little bit different than what you see at the higher level because resources are more readily available. When you've got the kind of money that they have at that highest level, you can make instant reactions and you can make quick changes. Like, in a 48-hour period, Drew, UCLA and USC went from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten in 48 hours. The last time we saw a school try to make a move that fast, FAMU, it resulted in misery and discomfort, and that thing happened too fast, and it wasn't even 48 hours, right? So I just it's a conversation, Drew, that I think we really want to have, but I want to cover. I don't want to just talk about it and randomly throw it out there. I want to really analyze the key, almost break down the key bullet points, like the A, B, C, D, E, and F. If it's going to happen, it has to happen like this. What has to happen? What has to be in place? So on and so forth. You dig? Does that make sense?
Did you just say you dig?
I did. I don't know where that came from. You know why? I'm in Atlanta. Look, I'm in the ATL.
It rolled out again.
I'm in the ATL, and it has already rubbed off on me. You dig? That's.
But yeah, I agree with you, Brian. I totally agree with you that this trickle down effect is going to be interesting. But how can I put it? Yeah, there's so much more that goes into it. at the Power 5 level, and they take a lot more. They've got a lot more different things coming at them with their making decisions, from the big money boosters to the corporate dollars and everything else. And we've got this, and I'll put this out here for right now. We've got this delusion that maybe we can go FBS in the next 5 years, 3 to 5 years.
Interesting
Well,
use of the word. You said delusion, huh? You think that's a delusion?
Yeah. Well, I'm just gonna put it like this: when our HBCUs are struggling to fund their athletic programs with budgets in the teens, $10 to $15 million in the low teens,
Less than
and
that.
to compete on the FBS level, you're gonna at minimum have to have a $30 million athletic budget.
Mm-hmm.
$30 million athletic budget. So you have to double what you're already spending. Some schools triple. You have to double or triple what you're spending. But this is not a capital investment. What I mean by capital investment, it's not a one-time investment. You have to sustain this. So what does that mean? That somewhere along the line have you ever applied for a grant, Brian, and received a grant?
I have not. I do understand it is a process, though.
Okay, I have written for grants. I have received grants in my current job and in my former professions. One question that's almost universal on any grant application: what is the sustainability of this program that you want us to fund when this funding runs out in 2 years, 3 years, something along those lines? That is what everybody needs to keep in mind when we're talking about a Jackson State, a North Carolina A&T, a Hampton, a Tennessee State, a FAMU going to the next level. All of those schools, if they wanted to, I think they can all handle that initial investment to get there. But at what cost is the sustainability? What cost to the students? What cost to the infrastructure at the university? If we're making this $15 million investment, where are we going to make this money up from? We could dip into this money over here. We may be able to get somebody out of endowment or something like that, but where are we going to replace this money? You're going from 63 to 85 scholarships. First of all, FCS, you can give partials. FBS, all 85 are full. So let's think about that.
Yeah.
FBS cost you get FCS, you usually get the cost of your cost of tuition and a few other things. FBS, cost of attendance, is what they give. They get cost of attendance. So you're probably talking an additional $20,000 to $25,000 per student for 22 scholarships that you're gonna have to fund.
Mm-hmm.
How many people? I mean, that's $500,000 right there, Brian.
Yeah.
That we have added a facility. We haven't added a coach. We haven't paid for the additional travel, because if you notice, y'all think the travel is bad on the FCS level. I mean, look, the Big Ten, it goes from California to New Jersey now.
Yeah, and I heard people talking about teams
ACC,
busing. There's nobody busing from California to
flying.
Wisconsin.
Everybody
exactly.
on the FBS fly. The ACC, if it continues to exist, goes from Syracuse, New York, or Boston. I don't know which one of them is further north, all the way down to
Syracuse.
Miami.
Yes.
All the way down to Miami.
Yep.
There is no charter bus company that's going to do that.
Hey, I will
And
say this
one
though.
last thing. A lot of these schools have private contractors with, or have private planes for these kids to fly on now. A lot of them don't even fly commercial anymore.
Yeah. The one thing I will say, there are schools that I think are beginning the. You mentioned a capital campaign, and obviously when you mention, and even doing a grant, you there's planning, there's steps that go into that process. I believe there are schools that are looking at the feasibility and beginning to take the first steps. Now, when the last step is, who knows? It may be 10 years, as some people have thought. It may be 5 years. It may be somewhere in the middle of 5 to 10 years. Okay, but there are schools that are taking those steps. But what I find
We
interesting,
are
and
going to
what
miss
I
out on this round. Is what it comes down to, Brian. We will miss
yeah,
out
but
on this round.
see, I don't think I don't think you have to worry about missing out. If this is here's the one thing that I will give a big kudos, pat on the back, thumbs up to Deion Sanders for doing, is trying to get people to change their way of thinking. If we can get more presidents at universities, if you can get more alumni, more sponsors to implore their university presidents and the board of trustees, a lot of time, or board of regents, or whatever that group is that sort of oversees, and sometimes it may even be a statewide thing. If you can get them to change their way of thinking about athletics and improving, and how an improvement in athletics can help a university, it will begin to be those big steps, not those baby steps, those big steps forward towards those bigger paydays. I just saw I'm not going to even name the school. I saw a presidential review, a video, a almost 8-9 minute video of all the accomplishments of an HBCU during the month of June. A president's report for the month of June. Lots of great things happened at this university, Drew. There was not one mention, one, of athletics or athletic facilities, athletic accomplishments by its students. Not one. A 9-minute video. And you want to tell me that president of that university or that university cares about athletics? I will laugh at you till I turn blue. I'm already
I need
kind
to
of
see
dark.
that video, Brian.
Well,
you need to send that to me.
I will, but it's a 9-minute video, and it floors me when that's the kind of thing that has to change. So we can talk all day about feasibility studies and the mythical. It's the same thing I said. People want change in the NCAA. Go to your university presidents. Don't go to the NCAA. He works for the university presidents. People have to start to understand the pecking order of who controls what. Right now, yes, television, ESPN, Fox, they're flashing a lot of dollars. And they're making big promises about a lot of money to these upper level institutions. But trust me, at the end of the day, it's presidents and those chancellors, board of regents who are listening, they're hearing and thinking about what's best for that university and that university's future. The same thing applies at the HBCU level. The HBCUs that are having great success, I'm going to give a shout out when I think about Edward Waters University, for example, and what their president and the way he backs athletics and what he has done for athletics. You see how a university that literally, Drew, when we started working them from 3 years ago, I could have never foreseen Edward Waters making the moves that they've made in the last 3 years. But one man
Yes.
came on board. One man came on board. He put a vision to it, put his mind, money, found resources, put his support, and every ounce of love and interest he had in doing better. And Edward Waters has flipped itself a whole 180. And look, they've moved from an NAIA school to Division II.
And
And
Brian,
look,
I do have some a bit of a bitter pill about that, Brian. And this is
hold
no
on,
disrespect to
save it for
this is
after. Hold on, save it for after the break. Save it for after the break. Tease.
no.
Bitter
This
pill.
this not this not a long this not a long one. This not a long one. I
Oh,
got to
okay.
get this
I
out here.
thought it was a good tease. All right, go
No,
ahead.
no. And no, this is no disrespect to Dr. Faison or Edward Waters University, then college, now university. But damn it, we had him. He used to work at Tuskegee University before he went to Edward Waters. We could have kept him. He could have did all that stuff for us. Now we can go to break.
Well said. Well said. You and I both have bitter pills to swallow right now. Hey, when we come back, we'll maybe dabble our toe into the drama that's happening over at Grambling State University, and then we'll start.
And our boss wants to come on and talk about why A&T won't even make this move. He's put it out there, so we need to give him the opportunity since he's the one pushing the buttons.
Maybe we'll see. We'll see if we want to see. He wants to come in now while we're coming at the end of the break. We can keep going if you want, but let's take.
No, we're gonna take a break and then come back.
Let's take a break. Quick break. Come back and we'll talk a little bit more on this conversation. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan and AD. We're back from vacation. We'll be back in just a moment.
The top HBCU programs in the nation come to Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium this May 11th through 14th for the Black College World Series. The best Black college baseball teams in the NCAA Division II and the NAIA will battle for Black baseball's ultimate pride. Games will be streamed live at www.mybcsn.net. Tickets are available now online at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
Are you ready? It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st. Blurs, nerds, and geeks from across the universe will converge on the capital city to see celebrity guests such as The Last Dragon, Tybach, Megan Tandy, and voice actor Dave Fenoy.
Hey, how you doing? I'm voice actor Dave Fenoy with a shout out to all my geeks, freaks, and urban nerds. Just want to let you know I'm going to be there and I want to meet you at the Urban NerdCon Gaming and Cosplay event. It's happening July 29th through the 31st in Montgomery, Alabama. Hope you want to meet me as much as I want to meet you.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier Blurred event in the universe. Theurbannerdcon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Bounty versus the old family dish towel. Drying with a fresh sheet of Bounty leaves your hands cleaner than a used dish towel that can carry and redistribute food residue. So ditch the dish towel for better hand hygiene. Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield, never not working.
Every time I open one of these bottles, I hear trumpets and big band music. The Creole seasoning is a sodium-free and sugar-free blend that's versatile enough to put on anything. one of the first blends I developed more than 8 years ago, the Creole seasoning has an unmistakable aroma, a bold flavor, and a little heat for character.
All right, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan and AD. I don't know. Was Mike's hot when I was talking there for a second, Drew? Who knows?
No,
During the break,
I didn't. If they were, you weren't coming through on my end.
Okay. Hey,
And
before
I
we
wish
get
the
into,
people would have heard the conversation we had during the break.
I would like to. There's a certain level of optimism and pessimism that comes with this conversation about expansion. Is it being optimistic, realistic, or pessimistic when you say that we aren't ready to move to the FBS? Drew, what do you think?
Bryan, I want to own a Bugatti. I want to own a Tesla. I want to own a Lamborghini. But realistically, on my salary, I cannot afford it.
Your current salary?
My current salary, I cannot afford it. Now, I may be able to nickel and dime and save up the money for the down payment, but that 7 years of financing is going to kill me, and the tow truck will come and take my car after a few months.
But hold on, let me bounce back with you.
Realistically, I know in my current state, even with the raise, even if I go get another job right now, I won't be in the position to own one of those vehicles. So I will continue to drive my
hold on,
20
Drew.
some odd $1,000 vehicle until I pay
saying,
it off.
But see, to me, that sounds pessimistic.
No, that's
not
realistic.
necessarily.
I know what my budget is right now, today.
Okay.
So
Okay.
now, if I hit the lottery, if I make a good investment, if I get some real estate and flip some real estate, and that real estate, turns into
then it
something
becomes
good,
all of a sudden it becomes realistic.
It becomes realistic at that point. But looking at it down the line, looking at it right now with what I see, my future, my education, the opportunities afforded to me, and everything like that, and I have some opportunities, but that is outside the realm of possibility for me. Same thing. It's always good. It's always good to dream, and there's nothing wrong with dreaming. It's always good. That's always good to have a plan. I have a plan that will get me there, but so much has to go perfect in order for that to happen, and you've got to be lucky along the line. Something unforeseen has to happen that impacts me positively that I do not have in that plan. Now, let's take Jackson State. I'm pretty sure Jackson State has had a plan for this all along. Something unforeseen that has impacted them positively, i.e., Coach Prime coming to Jackson State has put them in a better position than they would have been than most. Just like if I win a lawsuit, Brian, and me and you both going after this dream, if I win that lawsuit and get a $100,000 settlement, that's going to put me in a better position to be able to get that dream. Correct?
Okay.
And that's all it is. I'm just being realistic. But in order for me to have that lawsuit, I would have had to been wrong somewhere else.
But see, that's what I'm saying. That's how interesting this conversation is, because I think even your example has a realistic. It's realistic, but it's a shade of pessimism. But I think it can also be very realistic if you, as you said, if you have a plan in place and you put together a 20-year plan, and you're a mathematician, you know what it's going to take for you to financially be able to afford it. You know how much you would have to save and do all these other things and what you would have to do with your money. Yes. So to say that it's not realistic is where I push back and say right now it's not feasible. But being optimistic and being sort of a realist and saying it could happen. It can happen, but a lot of things do have to happen and be in the right place. Yes, you have to have the right people. You have to have the right sponsors. You have to have the right plan in place, and you have to get everybody on board to want to be able to execute the plan without also putting yourself in a negative position. And so that's what I find interesting about the conversation about expansion into a bigger space of optimistic, realistic, and pessimistic. I know our producer wants to jump in with a quick comment, so I'll turn to him and say, "Hey, Roy, how you doing?"
Well, isn't that funny that he quantifies that I have to have a quick comment?
I'm just trying to keep us on schedule.
So here's what I want to say, and I want to say something because you're absolutely right. And I need you to make sure you saw what my statement said. I said there is no HBCU prepared to go FBS within the next 10 years. I wholeheartedly agree that we can do it. But one, I think it would have to be done as a full conference because it's going as a part of one of the other conferences won't work because people are going to lose a lot of it. But like I said, I'm going to stick this to 7th grade because I don't think it'll work for us as individuals. But here's a couple of things that I need y'all to pay attention to. Right now, we're looking at the teams in the SEC, right? So it's 14 of those that I have here. There is only one school. Now, yeah. There is only one school in the SEC whose stadium capacity is under Jackson State's 60,000 people. The top 5, that's Vanderbilt.
Okay.
The top 5, 102,000. Tennessee, another 102,000. LSU, another 102,000. Alabama, 101,000. Georgia, 92,000. Florida, 88,000. So we're already talking about stadium sizes that are sold out just about every weekend in the SEC. Here's the reason why that's important. The issue that we're having is that we, first off, have times outside of the major homecoming games and the major games at FCS that we do already in HBCU sports with selling out stadiums that are 20 to 25,000 and 30,000. JSU, although they average 30, but look at the averages. You're going to put that into. You take homecoming. I bet if you take homecoming and Alcorn out, they're not going to have that many. All I'm saying is that we don't have the support that they do. The SEC schools, and I did this study a few years ago. I think it was Tennessee. Tennessee and both Alabama literally had a 10-year waiting list just to get on the waiting list for season tickets. So what does that mean? That means that they're able to open up doors and other avenues that they've got hundreds of thousands of people who still want to see their product and will pay top notch for it in the digital space, watching it on the television space. Drew brought the biggest point up. It's the athletic budgets. Until we are able to sustain a bare minimum of a $25 million athletic budget, bare minimum, we are not going to be able to compete with the top tier FBS schools. And that's why I said the issue is, though, why are we trying to do that? I'm going to give you one more set of numbers, because what we're doing, I'm going to go staying with the SEC. Let's go to undergraduate enrollment. Texas A&M, 47,000 people. Florida, 33,000 people. Alabama, 30,000 people. Missouri, 27,000 people. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to go back to that same one school that has a lower student enrollment, Vanderbilt, than the two top HBCUs in enrollment, which are usually who? Florida A&M and North Carolina A&T. They have Southern's up there. Okay, if Southern's up there over 10, those are the two that normally are up over 10 on a regular basis. Vanderbilt has 6,000, well, right under 7,000 students who are undergraduate employees. But guess what? Because they are in the SEC, they get a share of that whatever $1 billion package that they get, so they can compensate. Yeah, so they get to compensate. Exactly. That is the issue. We don't have those numbers because we don't have that many students. Like I said, FAMU, A&T, and then, as Drew said, maybe Southern are the HBCUs that have that. We're dealing with schools who on an average have 5 to maybe 7,000 student population. So we're not even generating, hold on real quick, this last point. We're not even generating the number of alumni that we need to be able to be sustainable in that level over a period of time. That's all I'm saying. And I said it can be done in 10 years, but I said within the next 10 years, no, because they have to build something out first.
I love the numbers and everything that you brought out, but let me say this. I want us all to stop using the SEC as a comparison tool. It is. But
whoa, Brian, no, hold on, stop. Why is that? Because y'all are talking about going FBS. When you go FBS, you're talking about. Hold on, you're talking about Power 5 schools. The majority of the Power 5 schools. Brian, how many? Brian, how big is the Notre Dame Stadium? How many people does Notre Dame Stadium seat?
Hold on. Let's back up for a second. Look, there are other schools that have moved to FBS, Roy, that are more within the.
Are they filler schools?
Size.
Are they filler schools, or are they schools who are powers in that conference?
Filler schools. I don't know what you're.
Take a Troy, take a Alabama Birmingham,
Coastal Carolina,
Appalachian State, Murray State.
How competitive do you think they're going to be against the Group of 5 or Power 5, whatever you want to call them?
They're not looking to be competitive, Roy.
That's the thing. That's what I'm trying to get.
But the financial win
hold on. That's what I'm trying to understand. That's what I'm saying. Look, there is the Power 5 have already separated themselves from everybody. That is an entirely different league. That is the NFL, while everyone else is playing in the USFL and the XFL. Okay. They have created a separate league because of money and television rights. Nobody's going to catch that unless the 5 richest African Americans or whomever they are, the 5 richest billionaires, decide to say, hey, I want to give my money to HBCUs. That's the only way that would happen. Okay?
That's it.
So
exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Stop comparing to the Power 5, SEC, and that model. A more realistic look and say is the Group of 5. There are several. There's probably at least a dozen to 2 dozen schools that fit the model and footprint of where HBCUs, if you compared those schools 20, 25 years ago to where HBCUs are today, that would be your more comparable than trying to look at a school which has reaped the benefits of several hundreds of millions of dollars from TV rights over the last decade. That's all I'm saying.
Well, see, Brian, but here, and I think this is the point that you're missing, though, from what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the HBCUs, here's the first piece. If they did it, they need to go as a conference. They need to go as a conference so that they can maintain their history and traditional rivalries. Because the other argument is when you talk about the FCS schools, and I guess, let me ask this. So this Group of 5 that you're talking about, those are the next ones after. And those are the places that you're thinking in. To me, a lot of those schools needed to stay in FCS. But because of all the conference churning, they found a way to get into the quote-unquote FBS system to be a part of the conversation with the Power 5.
They went there because of the money that comes with the bowl system.
Yeah.
They went there because there is bowl money and TV money that comes via the bowls that allows them. They understand they're not going to compete for a national championship. They're never going to be invited to that party. They're never going to be invited to that party. But instead of losing money in an FCS playoffs, what can they benefit from? They can benefit from, in the one sport that doesn't have its own championship playoffs, which is what? Football. Okay? They realize we can go and make a lot of money and play in bowl games. We can play and be a part of this TV package, which will bring us maybe not multi-millions of dollars, but it'll bring us more than what we would have made. And now, all of a sudden, all of our other sports can now compete, have an opportunity to win championships, so on and so forth.
Right. And Brian, I'm not debating that or arguing it. All I'm saying is that we talked about going FBS. It's irrelevant of whether we're comparing them to the Power 5 or the Group of 5 that's after them. The reality is, because listen, I think that the HBCU, quote unquote, if we got to that point, I've been advocating the Super Conference, hell, for the past 15 years. Because I believe that if we put that conference together, we will make more money with the way it is, whether it's at the FCS or the FBS level, than any of those Group of 5 schools. Because we've got what they don't have. We've got a tradition of over 100 years of schools playing football. We've got this. This is where our comparison to the FBS schools come in. We have 5 generations of fans that we can say. That's 20 years, so 100 years of fans that we can call back on. The 4 generations are still going to games, whereas you look at a school, even like a UCF. UCF's got 2 generations, two generations of fans. They can't compete with us overall.
Unfortunately, those great generations don't have the wealth behind them. that
it's not that we don't have it behind us. We're not using it, and we're not tapping into it the right way. Is what I think our problem is. Because again, well, like I said, we don't ask for it.
Well, okay, we maybe don't ask for it, but I still would push back and say that the 4 generations of of our university, for example, we say the 4 generations of people from Florida A&M have the economic resources of the 4 generations of Florida Gator.
Oh no! I'm not comparing that. That's two different groups, because again, the quantifiable size of that group is dramatically different. Because we're right. Yeah, so I agree with you in that. I agree with you in that.
That's why I say talking about comparisons with the SEC, it always falls flat with me, because I think what we do is we look at that footprint and we think it's a comparable footprint, and it's not.
No, Brian, but see,
because economically it's not a comparable footprint.
But the reality is, when you talk, and that's why I say we need to stop the FBS talk. Because when you talk FBS, you have to talk the top rung of it. Because if you don't, then like I said, it's a bunch of those Group of 5s that really should have stayed FCS. And they should have told the NCAA, you know what? Y'all forget y'all playoffs. We ain't going. You don't have to go to the playoffs. I mean, let's get real. You don't have to do it.
And that's the one thing that, through the Celebration Bowl that we've established that you don't have to go, especially when if you have the financial backing and you have the financial support from a large media entity that wants to broadcast and wants to be a part of your product. Yes, but that just brings up the whole thing that people get into about and this is why I said changing the thought process of schools deciding, what are you playing for? Again, I mentioned a school that had a presidential report and so many great accomplishments and not one mention of athletics. That tells me that president doesn't view athletics the same way that he views
academics. No, you're right.
Pharmacy or academics.
Yeah.
And is he wrong? There'll be a lot of people in the academic community that'll say, well, what is our university here for? Is it for? You know what I'm saying? So
Well,
I just
I'm gonna make this my last point, and I'm gonna give y'all back y'all show. This is the thing, and you just brought the point up. In today's world, if the next, or what is it, so we said the Power Five and the Group of Five. So the Group of Five is the group of conferences right after the Power Five, correct?
any of the conferences other than the obviously your Power
Well,
Five
the
is
Power
your
Five is not a
SEC,
Power
Big
Three,
Ten.
right?
Well, no, it's Big Ten, SEC, ACC, Pac-12, Big 12, and for right now they're getting enough money to still be called, the Power Five, even though some conferences have more power than others. It's
Right.
like,
But here's the thing.
So and then everybody else outside of that, which I think there's either 5 or 6 other conferences. I think it's 5
That's the
outside of
next
that.
group, is what they're calling.
That's the next group of
Let me tell you.
playing.
Let me tell you how they
conference.
changed. Let me tell you how they changed the game immediately. Right. That group of next 5 says to the NCAA, because at this point I don't know if you. I can't. Well, that's what I say. I don't know if they want to be like, because they're not allowing any more bowl games to come in. So that right. The NCAA has said no more bowl games. Right. On that level, they go to them and say, you know what, Dan? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna pull out of your playoffs, and we're gonna say we want to do, if it's 6 conferences, say we want to do 12 bowl games in the in the bowl season, which means we've got 2 of our teams, our top 2 teams from each of those 6 conferences are going to be playing across the board, so they can get there. And we want to do a secondary, call it the next 5 championship or whatever you want to call it, because you can't get with the other ones. And you put it on the open market to bid. I guarantee you, with CBS Sports, NBC Sports, Fox Sports, because we're not even going to put ESPN in it, because they're the Power Five. We know that's what they are. I guarantee you, from a TV perspective, those three media entities will get those dollars up for them over $300 to $400 million. But here's what I tell you. I said all that.
Same ratings as the FCS playoffs.
But see, here's the deal. Now, all that I just said, it's a stone cold ass lie, because none of them schools got the value that those other schools have, and that's why they're not getting the money now. That was their best hope, and that shit's a stone cold lie. Period. They don't have the views to be able to get people to watch their stuff like that. That's why they're trying to get into it. That's where the HBCUs have the advantage. But I just had to throw that out there, because I just wanted to get them all happy and then explain to them why they couldn't actually do it.
You hit a home run with that one. That was a good hit. Drew, before you got sniped, you had a point that you wanted to get in there. Before we go to a break, get your point in.
Yeah, one thing Roy said back at the beginning of the conversation is that us going as a conference, you got to remember that the rules say that you have to have an invite from an existing FBS conference, which is why when I looked at the thing on Twitter last week with, I believe it was 8 HBCUs going to Conference USA, after I thought about it, that would, a situation like that would be the only way that we would get schools in the same conference. They would have to be invited by one of the conferences, such as a Conference USA, a Sun Belt, or something along those lines. Now, once they get invited there, those HBCUs can band together to, i.e., take over that conference. Take all the seats within the conference office, within the board of that conference, the council of presidents, council of athletic directors, and things like that. But they're going to have to be invited to one of those conferences. Also, we want to get invited to one of those conferences because what do those conferences have that, if for some reason they allow a SWAC or whatever version of the SWAC to move up to FBS, won't have? Those are current bowl agreements. So those current bowl agreements are guaranteed revenue. So yes, we have our Celebration Bowl, but that's one where you even Conference USA has 4 bowls that they go to. Sunbelt sends their top 4, top 5 to somebody's bowl game, and they're getting revenue for those bowl games. And when it's all said and done, Appalachian State knew when they moved up they weren't going to compete in the Rose Bowl or in the Orange Bowl. Troy State knew they weren't going to the Orange Bowl. They were going to the Poinsettia Bowl or the whatever bowl
Bahamas
that's
Bowl,
played.
Popeyes Bowl,
Yeah,
Popeyes Chicken Bowl. Exactly.
yeah. Whichever bowl is played 2 days after Christmas, that's where they going.
Great paydays,
But
great opportunities for those kids.
they they get that check.
Yep.
And that conference is getting a check because they've got 4 teams going to those bowl games. Somebody's going to a bowl game 3 days before Christmas. Somebody's going to a bowl game 2 days after Christmas. You might be lucky to get somebody in a bowl game on December 31st. So that's what those are the reasons why you need that invite to get those multiple bowl bids. And
Hey,
how the
guys.
conference and schools split that up, that's up to each specific conference.
Hey,
Go ahead, bro.
guys. I'm gonna throw something out there that y'all. It can't be done this particular show, but I need y'all to do a little research. I'm gonna tell you something that's gonna surprise you. Just like the FCS playoffs is a bill for most of the schools, if you actually go look at some of these smaller and lower level bowl games that are out there, they're a bill too. I've talked to a couple of ADs that were like, dude, we were given a ticket guaranteed to show up to this bowl game. And if we didn't sell,
Right, you
we
got
had
to
to pay.
sell X amount of tickets. Right, you have to sell X amount of
So
tickets, 20,000 tickets.
all of these bowl games are not financial windfalls. See, that's the thing. That's the thing that people are missing. The only place that the actual windfall or that its actual profit guaranteed for the schools is during the basketball, the NCAA basketball tournament. That is a flat standard that you get for the number of schools that you have in there and for every game they play. It's the only one. A lot of these bowl games cost. That's why the Celebration Bowl was such a coup for the MEAC and the SWAC, because it cost them nothing. And whatever the profit was that was agreed on is what they actually get.
That's a good point, and I have heard about the ticket guarantees. Although you made me do. I do want to go do some research now, because if you're telling me that I'm going to use the Cure Bowl, which is one of the. It's on the same day or the day right after the Celebration Bowl in Orlando, Florida, and it hosts maybe the number 2 out of the Mountain West versus the 3 from, I don't know, the A-Sun. If you're telling me that they are losing money off that whole trip, I would scratch my head on that one. I really got to go look at that. Even if they don't sell their ticket allotment in full, I'm just wondering, there are payouts that come with the bowl game itself. So you may, I'm not saying you're wrong. I just, that makes me wonder. I got to check that out. One other thing, Drew, I saw, I think it was Ato Green. I hope I said your name right there. He pointed out that Coastal Carolina went to the FBS as an independent prior to joining a
But that was
conference.
before they changed the rules. That was before they changed the rules. Matter of fact,
Okay.
they were the last school to go up as an independent, if I do have my memory serves me correct. But they did change the rules where you have to have an invite from a conference. So that's why we had those schools would need to get themselves in position to get an invite from the conference. And we'll talk about this next week when we really take a deep dive. There are certain schools that you need to watch to see if those invites will become even more realistic. It's certain group of 5 schools, if they get bumped up to the Power 5 doing all this shuffling, there may be some opportunities if the HBCUs can get their act together very quickly. But Brian, we can continue on with this for these 2 hours. We said we won't say this week. Let's get into some SIAC after the break.
All right, let's take a break. Come back. Got a quick comment or two regarding what's going on at Grambling, and then get over into our SIAC preview. Media Days coming up on Wednesday, so we got some various storylines and some interesting things that we're going to be looking forward to finding out when we get a chance to talk to coaches and players this upcoming week. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan and AD. We'll be back in just a moment.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together we can be the change.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
The top HBCU programs in the nation come to Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium this May 11th through 14th for the Black College World Series. The best Black college baseball teams in the NCAA Division II and the NAIA.
Hey, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan and AD here, live, and want to thank you guys for hanging in there with our discussions in the chat rooms. Again, as I said, the conversation about fantasy expansion can go on for days, and that's why I said
we'll go on next week, though.
Yes, and that's why it's one of those things where I wanted us to outline this. You know, I almost want to make this almost a thesis, a study, a true conversation, a true defense, either for or against, and we got to come out and hit on all the positive points and things of that nature. But before we get into talking about the SIAC and their upcoming 2022 Football Media Day, which will be happening Wednesday from the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta, Georgia.
And
we got to talk about
broadcasting.
We will. They will be.
Yeah, we will be.
I know they will. We will be.
We will be. I thought you were gonna be there with me.
I plan on it. I mean, you know.
Okay.
I just didn't know.
Well, then we'll be live.
Nice. Okay. I just wasn't sure. Okay. Hey, Grambling That's the second big story that's kind of happened over the past week, as Grambling made the decision to part ways with their volleyball coach, Chelsea Lucas. And so I have paid attention to this thing, Drew, but I have not put together an accurate timeline of events. So here is the short abridged timeline that I know, right? And feel free to jump in and correct anything that you know to be different or incorrect. But for the purposes of this, as of this past week, she is no longer the head coach. So Chelsea Lucas comes from, I believe, UAPB, as well as I think Alcorn State prior to that. Decent record, wasn't a great, outstanding record in terms of being over 500 multiple years, had not won a conference championship at any or either school. So the minute she gets hired at Grambling, one of the first stories that comes out is that several or all of the Grambling State volleyball players on the team had been cut, let go, or basically told your scholarship would not be renewed the following year. Many people don't know that athletic scholarships are really year to year. You know, they are year to year agreements. Even though you may have a love for the university that brought you there, I mean, when new coaches come in, we've seen it happen, Drew, at the basketball level, even the football level. It happens a lot more on the men's side than what you hear about happening on the women's side, right?
Correct.
So you can be run out of a program. Basically, the coach can say, hey, I don't think there's going to be opportunities for you to play here. What do most guys say? Oh, well, hell, I don't want to be here if there's no chance for me to play. Let me go find another place where I can play. Okay, that's usually how the conversation kind of sort of goes. Yeah. And so, I guess, she had been given the okay if that's what she wanted to do. And so then we hear the stories that she's bringing in players that were with her at UAPB, that were transferring over to Grambling. That would kind of make sense. We've seen that kind of taking place.
How many people do you think Dawson Odoms took to Norfolk?
He took a
How many
coaching
people?
staff. Hey,
How many
Bowie
people?
State,
How many
Morgan,
people?
Morgan
Exactly.
State. Yes, that's the more
Yes.
current one that we can look at. Coach Wilson. There have been several guys from
David Wilson.
Bowie who have gone over to Morgan. So you've got players from UAPB coming over to Grambling, and so that just set off a firestorm of how she did business, because then it starts to come out that she did something very similar prior to coming to UAPB. And a lot of what you hear and was hearing, you couldn't tell if it was character assassination on the coach or if it was, she's being really ugly towards these players, and the sympathy and empathy of the players, these young ladies and their families, that had kind of gotten out there. And they were really leaning on the AD and the president to get involved and really kind of make Coach Lucas honor these scholarships and honor this team, which, by the way, again, she did not recruit any of those players that she was going to be playing with, did she? No, those weren't her kids, so to speak. But we've seen coaches have to come in and play. You have to work with other coaches' kids, right? We've seen that happen. One of the first statements I think that we saw was a show of support that came out from the athletic director, Dr. Travion Scott, who had given his support to Coach Lucas. And Drew, I wish I could find the press release. I don't know if you got a second to while I'm briefly explaining all this and talking about this, to find on the Grambling site. There's probably an archive story where Dr. Scott had made a statement regarding this. So at this point, it seems like the athletic department is behind Coach Lucas, right? But there's still a lot of noise being made. Now all of a sudden, the media interviews start to happen on some of the local YouTube shows and other shows, and the articles are starting to go out with the voices and complaint. You have petitions being signed online and being distributed amongst the Grambling community. And you still hadn't heard from the president of Grambling State just yet. Nope, still hadn't heard from him. And that was sort of, hey, we're looking to hear this. And I think it was at the beginning of May. It was either the beginning of May or beginning of June, where Grambling's president finally made a statement and said that they would look into what is going on with this situation. Again, I'm paraphrasing. I don't have all of it pulled up because this wasn't really the main topic of where we're going. So anyway, that came out. That was the last thing we heard prior to the news earlier this week that Grambling decided to part ways with Lucas. And so the more recent conversations, and I just did a quick Google search, Grambling State volleyball. You got stories from the News Star. Essence got involved with a story. Of course, HBCU Game Day and this was 2 days ago when she was let go. Yahoo Sports, all of the major sports outlets, the Washington Post even got involved in this. And I think I'm actually looking at this right now. She did an interview, a video interview with Carl Reed, 24/7 Sports, just the other day. And so, as I'm gonna read from HBCU Game Day. You're gonna give Steve Gaither this the props on this one. As I said, there are a lot of people out there that covered this. So Lucas is gone. She went on that 24/7 Sports, and she believed that there was a plot against her from the get-go. Reading from the article, she says, quote, "We had some happy people that was celebrating and congratulating me, but we also had some other ones that just had a plan to make sure I didn't get the job or make sure that I got fired. Regardless of whatever happened," and this is before anybody ever got released from the team, "there was a calculated plan to get me fired." Scott says the plot initiated with a player she had coached at a previous stop who guided the former Grambling State volleyball players on how to get her removed. I mean, the levels of this, Drew, are fascinating. Don't you think? For college athletics, this is fascinating, right? I feel like this should be what's that show, an ABC movie, some she also denied claims that she cut 19 student athletes, stating that she never even had that many. So that was a number. That was another thing that was out there, right? That there were 19 girls that were cut. She says, quote, "I met with 14 girls on the day that we had our end of the year meetings. On April the 4th, I met with them. There were girls that I gave them reasons of why you will no longer be part of the Grambling volleyball program. And there were student athletes that I asked, I want you to be part of this program. This is your decision. I want you to come in and help me build a winning program here." Lucas said that she met with Director of Athletics, Dr. Travion Scott, as well as compliance about her plans to remake the roster. The AD told her to, quote, "get rid of them all." Yikes.
That's gonna kill your APR.
Yeah, well, yeah. Hey, look, boy, let's not get into that discussion. Yeah. Oh my God. Good luck calculating all that. Lucas said she felt the pressure to win and win quickly, and it came from the top. She said, quote, I had to win. That's what I was being told. If not every day, every other day, I had to win. I had to move this program. How do I move this program? Do what you have to do to get this program to be a top seed program in the SWAC. Grambling cares that much about volleyball? I'm just maybe y'all can tell me. Graham fam,
Apparently,
where's my girl at? Who can tell me? Lashanda, does Grambling care that much about volleyball? I'm just curious.
Ty Floyd, we need you to not
do
Ty
some
Floyd.
investigative reporting.
Yeah, do some investigative reporting. Faith Daniels, we need you to chime in on this. Matter of fact,
yeah. So, needless to say, Drew, I've watched all of this, and the one thing that strikes me as concerning. And I know Dr. Scott is in good standing and he has a lot of support from the right Grambling people. But I've heard on two different occasions, or read on two different occasions, Dr. Scott put support behind two situations that turned south. The first one was Art Briles' situation. The Art Briles hire, they supported Coach Jackson with that. And it turned out, well, he ended up stepping down. I guess enough boosters cried foul loud enough, and it went to hell. And he resigned. Although I thought he should have fought, but he said, I got to go. And then this situation. So at this point, Drew, I got to start wondering, or maybe, you're watching the decision making and the things that you're supporting and getting behind. I'm one of those people that feel like, hey, I think Grambling needs to have a great year, because you can even go back as far as the way the Coach Fobbs thing got handled, which I wasn't a big fan of. I thought that could have been handled better, but it is what it is. And then you have this situation. It hadn't been a great year for Grambling athletics, Drew. Just my 2 cents. What are your 2 cents on the Coach Lucas Grambling situation after all of that I rambled through?
It's really interesting when you sit here and think about it, and you wonder what was the trigger. Was this a Title IX violation that may have initiated this because of all the female scholarship athletes that were being released? Or was this just a personality conflict? I do find it interesting that apparently there was a player that she coached previously. I'm assuming that was at Pine Bluff, since that was her most previous stop, that she did not necessarily get along with, or they had run-ins. That's the best way of putting that. So, but all it takes is that one, whether what that one told was true or not true. All it takes is that one spreading whatever it was amongst that, and it catches on. It's not hard, especially in today's society, and we've seen players have the power to do things where 5 years ago, 20 years ago, players would not have been able to do some of the things that they've done. We personally witnessed it at Florida Memorial doing the pancakes. So, those are some things that you really have to. Let's give these players credit. Whatever they did or did not do, somebody got the ball rolling. So I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying whether I support the players, whether I don't support the players. But the fact that players nowadays, with NIL, with the transfer portal, and everything else, have this much power now. This is a new day when it comes to coaching collegiate athletics.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fascinating story. I'm really fascinated by it. I don't, I don't think I've heard anybody say there's been like any type of physical abuse, nothing like on what we've heard about the stories at Norfolk State in the Norfolk State football program, nothing to that level. But
Texas Southern, we heard some verbal abuse for Texas Southern.
For
In the basketball
from the
program.
women's basketball, yeah.
Yes.
But but in this day and age of mental health awareness, mental abuse, which who knows, this could probably fall under that umbrella, is just as damaging to, comparison to the physical abuse that may be taking place. And it's just, again, I haven't listened to the interview yet, so maybe next show, or maybe obviously, in a couple weeks we've got SWAC Media Day. Not that this will come up during the SWAC Media Day, football media day, but I am, it'll give us I do maybe by our next show want to kind of watch the interview. It's on 27 Sports YouTube page. It's about an 18-minute interview, and just kind of hear, because she claims that her voice was silenced, and we never did hear anything from her.
But that's typical.
Yes,
very. And what I mean by that, that's usually typical of the school, because you know as well as I do, we cannot interview any coach without going through the sports information director. There has to be a layer who says, yes, we can interview. No, we cannot. We cannot interview a current student athlete without going through sports information. That's just protocol. That's for to protect the university and everything else. Most companies you work with, you cannot make a statement to the media without approval by someone above you. So, and then I'll guarantee you, I'm pretty sure she had an attorney. Her attorney probably also told her, you need to be quiet right now, because you don't want to say anything that could put yourself in jeopardy.
Well, that's why I want to hear this interview, because if she does have a lawyer who told her not to say anything, I'm curious. I'm like, oh, your lawyer told you now to go ahead and speak and do a 18-minute interview now after you've been let go? That's interesting. So I I really want to hear that. So let's I think Diamond say the interview is exactly as the article reads. All right, so maybe nothing new is really found out in that Steve's article kind of pulled out all the good juicy stuff. So get a chance to read. I would like a timeline though. If anybody wants to do a graphical timeline, I'd love to be able to see a timeline of this. And because I don't know, it's just one of those fascinating stories. And again, I guess more will come from it, but I hope 22-23 is a better year for Grambling than 21-22. All right, Drew, SIAC Media Day coming up on Wednesday. 13 teams. This is the new SIAC as they move from 11 football playing members to 13 football members. The newest members being Allen University of Columbia, South Carolina, and Edward Waters University, who actually Edward Waters became a provisional member a couple of years ago. We were at that media day when that announcement officially happened. I believe Edward Waters has played a couple of seasons with SIAC scheduled teams, although they have not been able to compete for a playoff or playoff for contention, rather, as they were going through the process of going from NAIA to Division II. Allen University, I did look this up, Drew. Allen played 5 SIAC schools on their schedule last season. They only played 9 football games. So let's start there with the conference as itself. First off, Allen and Edward Waters. First question is, are they eligible to play and compete for the conference championship this year?
No. Next question. They are eligible in every other sport but football. They have to go 1 more year for them to be eligible for football in the SIAC.
And is that an SIAC rule or NCAA rule?
I think it may be a SIAC mandate. We That'll definitely
We'll
be
get
a
some
question that
clarification
we
on
will
that.
explore on Wednesday. And by the way, for those who are watching and listening, if you have some questions that you want us to ask during the SIAC Media Day, go ahead and put them in the chat, and we'll make sure we pull those off afterwards and see if we can get those in. That could be with any specific team that you want us to ask a question to.
Okay. As we start looking at the schedule, before we get into the preseason strength of schedule, which you put together there, Drew, I did want to go to the discussion of the format of the conference, because I think when Allen and Edward Waters were provisionally on the docket, on the listing, they were listed as part of this East, which thus made the East look like they had 8 teams in the East, 5 teams in the West. Now, 13 obviously doesn't split evenly. To
Never
your
has, never
knowledge,
will.
no, never will. To your knowledge, what is it? And we don't know yet, but what have you heard? What is likely to, what is the conference alignment going to look like for this upcoming year and maybe the upcoming foreseeable years?
Well, looking at the schedule, it looks as if the SIAC has gone away from divisions.
Okay.
Because some of the traditional matchups that you would see in a East-West format are not there this year. Now, Emma Waters in football has played as a Western team for the last 2 years, playing the likes of Tuskegee, Miles, Lane, Kentucky State, and Central State. They have played with those teams this year. This year, just taking a look at Emma Waters' schedule, their conference schedule, they've got Clark, they've got Savannah, they've got Lane, Morehouse, Albany State, Central State, and Miles and Allen. So that's more of an Eastern schedule. Tuskegee basically, just take a team from the West. Tuskegee basically has their traditional Western schedule, but as you know, Edward Waters is not on their schedule. Tuskegee has what would be a crossover game would be Allen, Clark, Morehouse, but then everybody else comes from what has been the West: Central State, Lane, Kentucky State, and Morehouse. They do have a non-conference conference game against Fort Valley, which is the Red Tails Classic, but that does not count against the conference schedule. So, and I looked through 3 or 4 teams just trying to see how it was going to work out, because the 2 teams that I was really interested with was Miles and Clark. Which side were they going to play on? Let's take a look at Morehouse's schedule. Morehouse, Central State, Albany State, Benedict, Lane, Kentucky State, Edward Waters, Tuskegee. 1, 2, 3. That's almost a traditional Eastern schedule. Clark, Atlanta, Edward Waters, Lane, Albany State. Now Edward Waters and Lane are non-conference games. Conference games: Albany State, Tuskegee, Allen, Savannah State, Fort Valley, Benedict, and Morehouse. So I'm assuming they're just going to take the top 2 for the championship game. That is one of the first questions that I want to have answered on Wednesday, though.
And it looks like it's a 7-game conference schedule. So seven games will determine conference standings. I believe last year it was 6. So 6 games. This year it looks like there's 7.
Yes.
Okay, so again, if we go with that theory again, you're saying that, top two teams, we're going again, this is all unofficial. This is just our
Speculation.
speculation that you have, top two teams will compete for
The
the
championship.
championship. Now, this is where strength of
Which is going to be
schedule.
interesting. Hold up. This is going and that's it's going to be interesting about it because SIAC has always rotated the championship game, but since they've gone away from a neutral site between the East champion and the West champion, regardless of record.
Right.
So if they're going with the top two, does that mean the number one seed gets the championship game? As if you're going with the top two, that's how you should do it.
That's how I would do it.
But that's another question that needs to be asked and answered during the SIAC Media Day.
Right. So last year, and looking at the standings, of course, Albany State over in the East finished unbeaten, 6-0 perfect record among the 6 conference games that counted. 9-1 overall record. Savannah State was 5-1 in conference play. Morehouse was 4-2 in conference play. Fort Valley State 3-3. Benedict 2-4. Clark winless. That's among 6 conference games last year. Over in the West, there was a little more drama to it.
The best in the West.
Miles and Kentucky State both finished 4-2 in conference record. Miles beat Kentucky State head-to-head. That's even though Kentucky State had a better overall record. And that's by the fact that they
7-3
played
versus 6-4, I believe.
Exactly. But Kentucky State lost the important game to Miles. Lane finished 3-3. They were in the hunt there until they weren't. Tuskegee 2-4. Central State winless. Okay, strength of schedule now, Roy. If you can put that graphic back up, because this is where
Brian, just for GP, give Allen and Edward Waters records from last year.
So all I have is Allen was 4-5 overall. They were 1-4 against SIAC opponents. They were 2-0 against the CIAA, by the way. Edward Waters was 4-7 overall. I did not break down what their record was against
SIAC.
conference SIAC folks. So if you look at the preseason strength of schedule, now Drew, this is looking at all 10 games. This is not looking at just their conference strength of schedule, is it? Okay.
Correct. This is looking at the entire their entire schedule. And this is based on the model that we use at the Black College Sports Network to put this algorithm into the computer rankings. This is a portion of the computer rankings, and this obviously when we did this took all 10 games as the teams are currently ranked. This is based upon last year's records of their opponents.
So it's 0.399 for Morehouse means what? That they're combined. Is 0.399 just a number, a numerical metric number?
Yes, it's just a numerical number. That's not the win percentage of their opponents or anything along those lines. That's a base.
That's why I asked.
Right. It's based
because
upon.
People might look at that. If you're looking at it, if you're looking at our video, you're looking at this and you're like, oh, Morehouse's opponents only had a win percentage of 0.399. No, that's not what that is. What it's saying is right. So I'm just going to run down the top.
Can I break that number down? How that number kind of comes about?
Do you really want to go? Do you really want to nerd out like that?
I'm gonna get a 7th grade version.
Go ahead.
An opponent that Morehouse is playing, you take where they are rated at in their division. So if they're playing the number 1 team in FCS, for example, then they are 163 There are 163 Division II teams this year. competing on Division II level. So if they're playing the double one team, they would get a 1.0 as far as their strength of schedule for playing the double one team. Consequently, if they're playing the 163rd team, they would get whatever 163 is divided by 1. That's how many points that they would get for that. And
Okay, and
as you see,
just to
that's
clarify,
extrapolated
so
out.
people, so let me give out the first 3 games of Morehouse's schedule. They are home hosting against West Alabama, home hosting against West Georgia, and then they play neutral site game against Howard. That is their first 3 games of the season before they begin conference play.
And by the way, just so you know, the number 1 and the first week they're playing currently the number 21st rated team, and in week 2 they're playing the number 5 rated team in Division II.
Right, and a Howard team that I think many people think will be much improved from a year ago.
Correct.
At Howard University. Okay, so the top 5, you have Morehouse, head coach Rich Freeman coming back for his 16th season. You've got Miles College with the second toughest schedule. New coach at Miles, Samuel Shade, former Alabama and NFL player. Also was a state championship high school head coach in Alabama. So many people in Alabama are very familiar with the name Samuel Shade. He takes over for Reginald Ruffin, who built Miles into a powerhouse over the past decade. Albany State comes in with the number 3, third toughest schedule going into the year. And of course, everybody wants to know, can Albany State duplicate what they did a year ago? Their schedule consists of Mississippi College at home. They travel to FAMU in week 2, and then they play shorter non-conference game in week 3. Savannah State comes in now. There's a significant drop after those top 3 teams in terms of how tough those schedules. I guess I should go back and say who Miles plays at the beginning. Miles opens their season. This is interesting, the fact that their tough 3 might be the toughest 3 games to start the season. They travel to Alabama State. They host West Alabama, who you just noted coming in at ranked 21. And then they travel to Valdosta State, who typically Valdosta State will be top 5, probably top 10. 4, 3, 3. Okay.
The number 3 right now.
Yeah. So you tell me, I don't know, the toughest non-conference schedule for the first 3 weeks might belong to Miles College right off the bat.
Maybe the toughest in the SIAC, but not the toughest in Division II.
Somebody has tougher in Division II?
Mm-hmm.
Who?
That would be Lincoln of Missouri.
Who's on there? Who do they have?
I don't have it. I don't have the opponents in front of me. But to open the season, they're the number 16, number 2 ranked, and they're the number 13 ranked.
Lincoln of Missouri. Is that LU Missouri? That's Washburn,
yes.
Northwest Missouri, and Fort Hays.
Lincoln of Missouri plays 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams that will be in the Division II preseason top 25.
Good God. Woo. All right. That's
9 of their 11 games.
Jeez. Yikes. Okay, rounding out the top 5 preseason strength of schedule, Savannah State, new head coach, Aaron Kelton, just named the head coach back in early April, so he has not been on the job longer than 4 months, and he has a mighty
2 cups of coffee,
mighty tall task in front of him. And how about Clark Atlanta coming in at number 5? Coach Willie Slater taking over after years at Tuskegee. Definitely probably
Number
should be in
2
the Tuskegee
all-time
Hall of
winningest
Fame.
coach
Yep,
at
yep.
Tuskegee.
Followed up
Only
the
behind
next
Steve Abbott.
5 is Tuskegee, Benedict, Edward Waters, Lane, and then Fort Valley State. The bottom 3, Allen University, Kentucky State, and Central State. So those are now it's interesting seeing that those 3 teams that had the lower level schedules or lowest schedules end up at the quote unquote easiest schedule. So that's interesting. That's what that would imply, right, Drew? That those 3 have the quote unquote easiest schedule, with Central
Yes.
State having the easiest. Central State, of course, 0-6 last year, 1-9. New coach Kevin Porter taking over. All right. So that's the strength of schedule. Let's go to the next storyline, Drew. New coaches at new schools. By my count, we were doing this earlier. I've got 7 new coaches, 6 returners. Is that right?
That would be correct.
Okay, so what's interesting about the new coaches, you've got 3 coaches that they aren't new to the SIAC. They're just in a new place. You've got Kevin Porter, who's at Central State, formerly at Fort Valley State, actually won an SIAC championship for Fort Valley within the past 5, 6, 7 years, right? You
I
have
want to say
Willie
16,
Slater.
maybe. I think it was
Yeah, I think it was
2016,
16.
2017,
Yeah,
somewhere up in there.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he even went to a championship. So I think he went to 2 championships and won a title in his maybe 5 years that he was at Fort Valley State. He is now going to try to get Central State back on the right track. Willie Slater, another winless conference team, Clark Atlanta, takes over after just quietly leaving Tuskegee. Shame on you, Tuskegee. Quietly letting Slater just leave. Anyway,
We
he's
let
now at
Faison sneak away, and we did give Willie his roses before he left. We got to do better,
exactly.
TU.
And taking over for Coach Slater will be Reginald Ruffin, who leaves Miles to take over and come back home to Tuskegee. Although he's only doing it for a year. He's going to coach 1 year and then go back into be the sole athletic director. So he's kind of going to do his last dance in coaching, or at least his last dance as a head coach and AD, I guess, right?
Right. And then he's going to turn it over to Aaron James, who's a former quarterback at Tuskegee, played under Rick Comergy. And he's been James has been around. Last, I believe, he was at Bethune before he came to Tuskegee as the OC, I believe, at Bethune.
Right. It's funny. All 3 of those coaches, they don't necessarily travel to their old schools, but they do host those schools that they formerly coached at. Coach Porter, they host Fort Valley State in week 6 for homecoming. Coach Slater at Clark, they host Tuskegee in week 5. And of course, Coach Ruffin with Tuskegee, they host Miles in week 10. So there's no welcome back, coach. It's just like, hey, we host and it's going to be what it's going to be, right? The other new coaches, we already mentioned Samuel Shade at Miles. We mentioned Aaron Kelton at Savannah State. The new hire that I'm most interested in, Sean Gibbs at Fort Valley State. He was an assistant for almost a decade plus, running back coach All-Americans, that great crop of A&T running backs from the tens or teens that decade ago, all under his tutelage. He's now the head coach at Fort Valley State. And I don't think we had the name of the coach for Kentucky State. If you look on the SIAC website, question marks. So Charlie Jackson, who I was a big fan of personally, left, and after taking that team from winless to a respectable, almost a conference contender with a 7-3 record as he left. I think he was 14-7 in his 2 seasons, and he even beat
Jackson State,
3. Yes.
Tennessee State.
I was going to get to that. That he beat Jackson State. Yes. He beat 3 FBS programs as a D2 school, FCS programs as a D2 school, one of them being Jackson State in the Circle City Classic. So big fan of Coach Charlie Jackson. Remember the name. He's at Air Force now. He will be a head coach. That's his alma mater. He's an Air Force guy. So anyway. All right, the returners. I already said Coach Rich Freeman, 16 years in the game. Coach Gabe Giardina, do you know any guesses how many years Coach Gabe has been in doing it, Drew? Any guesses?
8.
Not quite. A little too high. 6.
Okay.
6. So he is the second. Well, I don't know if you count Slater and Ruffin.
The new schools. New schools.
Yeah. So at the same school now, Coach G is now the second longest tenure at one school. Of course, Rich Freeman, 16 years at Morehouse. Now, after him, you got a host of coaches who were in their second or third year. You've got Chinas Berry at Benedict in his third year. Byron Brown at Lane, second year. Toriano Morgan, second year at Edward Waters. Teddy Keaton might be second or third year at Allen. I'm not really sure. I know he basically built the program up at Allen University. So this might be year 2 or 3 for him. Which coach, Drew, are you most excited to see? I already told you I'm interested to see Sean Gibbs, Fort Valley State. Which coaching storyline are you most interested in going into this year?
Whew. You got me with that one, Brian, because I don't want to sound like a homer and pick Slater or Ruffin. So I'm gonna throw those out because I'm gonna sound like a homer because I've had personal interactions with both of them over many of occasions. I'm gonna give you one. Coach Morgan, Edward Waters. Quentin Morgan. No, that's not Morgan. What's his name? Edward Waters.
Yeah, no, Toriano Morgan and Edward Waters.
Toriano Morgan. Yeah, Toriano Morgan at Edward Waters. That's the one that I want to. I think it's going to be interesting. Yeah. That and then number 2 is probably going to be Coach G at Albany State. Those are my top 2.
I actually, when I look at this list of 13 coaches, I don't. You know how. Look, we do these kind of things where we say, oh, who's on the hot seat? I don't see a coach on the proverbial hot seat because the 2 programs that were winless have new coaches. And the next step, I think you've got Benedict, who they were 2-4 in conference, but they were 5-5 overall. And really, I think Benedict takes a big jump forward this year. I think that's going to be interesting. I don't think there's anybody on the hot seat, Drew. I mean, is there anybody that you could foresee or, being on the hot seat?
No, not necessarily. But what's going to be interesting about this season is will the Blue Bloods, Tuskegee, Miles, return back to their glory, or will the new kids on the block, such as Elaine, and I need to call Fort Valley as one of those Blue Bloods, will those go back to being those superior teams, or will a team like an Edward Waters, a Lane, come in and do something? And then what about the recycled coaches? Those 3 recycled coaches. What are they going to do? Because we know they can all win. How long will it take? Will it be immediate, or will they need a class or 2 in order for them to do what we know and expect those 3 reworked coaches to do?
Let's do this. Can we go through each team and quickly just say what is a storyline or what is something that you're interested in from each team? Can we run down the list? I did that for about half the teams and figure I could kind of wing it on the bottom half. You feel like you can do something like that?
I'll throw my 2 cents in where appropriate. How about that?
All right, let's start from the top. We're going alphabetical order here from A to T. Albany State. I'm gonna say I'm curious to see. Big question for Albany State: can the defense duplicate their success from 2021?
I'll go with that one. Will they have another playoff run in them? They play Mississippi College. They play shorter. We're not gonna count the FAMU game. Can they run through the SIAC undefeated again?
Yeah, Allen University. They've got a full schedule this year. SIAC teams. Are they ready for those top tier teams this year? And I also think they may have the most dynamic offensive player in quarterback David Wright III, who's a sophomore, 5'10", 175, led the league in total offense, passing or accumulating 329.2 yards per game last year. So will that be enough? That's sort of what I'm interested to see from Allen.
Will Allen win more games in the SIAC than they did against CIAA opponents last year?
Bam. There you go. I love that. Benedict, going down to Benedict College. Beautiful stadium, beautiful facilities. Is Benedict ready to take the huge jump forward? Originally, if Benedict would have been in a East-West format, I wouldn't give them much of a chance to get to the championship. But look at the schedule, Drew. Did they play Albany State this year?
Yes, week 7.
Okay. That may not matter because obviously if you're looking at top 2 teams, Benedict, I think they only had 4 conference losses last year and they finished 5-5. They had the number 2 red zone offense, the number 3 red zone defense. I think they play pretty good ball on both sides. Eric Phoenix, the senior quarterback, I watched him against Savannah State, probably his best game of the year. He looked really good. Next to David Wright of Allen, he averaged 288 yards per game of total offense, which was number 2. So, I mean, that's why it'll be interesting to see who's the preseason offensive player of the year. I got a feeling it's either going to be David Wright or Eric Phoenix. What are your thoughts on Benedict?
Benedict, and I am looking at this. Benedict is the only school who plays an entire HBCU Division II schedule in the conference.
Oh, wow. Okay.
There are some other schools who play an entire HBCU schedule, but they've got a check game thrown in there. They're the only one who plays that entire. Which, if Benedict can finish, could put them in a good spot to possibly get a playoff bid because they do play an entire Division II schedule.
Yeah. And don't at me when I say this. I think Benedict has the nicest stadium in the SIAC. Don't at me on that. I haven't been there, but every time I look at photos of their stadium, I get envious, and I'm like, wow, that's a beautiful looking stadium for Benedict. So I just thought I'd put that out there. Central State, moving on down. I put nowhere to go but up. The last 3 seasons, they went from a 500 ball club to a 3-7 ball club to a 1-9 ball club. I think Coach Porter will turn that thing around and get them back. So nowhere to go but up for Central State. Anything? Nope.
No, let's move on. And I need to correct that statement that I just that I made, but I'll save it for the next one. There are actually 3 schools that play an entire HBCU Division II schedule, and I'll note those as we come to the other 2.
All right, Clark Atlanta. Here we go. Clark Atlanta. Can the Slater way work at Clark? That's what I'm looking to see. Will the Slater way work at Clark? What do you got, Drew?
Look, week 5, Tuskegee travels to Clark. And then they need I want to see Clark in week 5 and week 10. Will they beat Tuskegee? Will they win the battle of the AU? The AUC.
Yeah. Hey, that'll be a good one. Where is that? That'll be at
That's
that'll
at
be over at
Morehouse this year.
Morehouse. Yeah, it'll be at
Yeah.
Morehouse this year. Yeah. So that's two interesting points of the season that you just spotted out. That's a good lookout. All right, Edward Waters. You just and you hit on this. I think the thing for Edward Waters is establishing their identity this year. There were two different Edward Waters teams last year. There was the team who gave up the perfect game to Kentucky State. And then there was a team that had offensive games where they looked really good. Like I watched them. We were on the sidelines against Florida Memorial. I mean, there were days when offensively it looked all there. And then there were days when it looked like, the defense just couldn't stop, the faucet from running out the sink. Um, so I'm just looking to see will there be an identity establishment this year? And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first off season that Coach Morgan has had because he
Yes.
got hired very late last year. Matter of fact, wasn't it after the spring game?
They played the spring season.
Yes.
Did they had an interim? Then he came in
probably
so
about May. I think about May.
I think it was later than that. I think it was later than that.
Yeah, could
Right.
be. So he had his first spring. So that's why I'm interested to see what Edward Waters is and who they are. That's my thing. What any thoughts on Edward Waters?
Look, they opened up week 1 against Florida Memorial. So that's week 0 in Miami Gardens, Florida. But they do have that check game thrown in there week 7 against A&T. Interesting about that one. So those couple things that I know that are scheduled.
That Edward Waters schedule, because of the fact that they're not playing for an SIAC championship, they play an 11-game schedule. And you mentioned that they go on the road to play North Carolina A&T, but that week 11 game, the day of the SIAC championship, they're playing Allen in the what do we call it? The AME. What have they decided to call that? The AME Classic or something of that nature?
Give me just a second. I'll tell you exactly.
I will say this though: those two. I mean, the last 2 games.
Yes.
Those games have been high scoring. They've been shootouts. They've been fun games. So that's an interesting final game of the season that I'm sure once they become eligible for the playoff or become eligible for the conference will move forward and play on week 10 instead of week 11.
Right.
All right. Fort Valley State, next team up. The thing that I'm most interested in, I told you, I like the fact that Fort Valley has Sean Gibbs. Fort Valley also has 2 dynamic sophomores, Emmanuel Wilson, the running back, who was the only player to average 119.3 yards per game rushing the ball. He only played in 7 games last year. Remember, he was a young man who was the CIAA Rookie of the Year at Johnson C. Smith before he came over to Fort Valley. And I believe he's still at Fort Valley. I haven't seen anything on the news wires that I did a search, nothing on Google that said he transferred. So he'll be a sophomore. And then their quarterback, Tyrell Jackson, 6'2", 200. He's a sophomore, played in 9 games last year, threw for just over 1,800 yards, which was about 203 yards per game, 14 touchdowns, 10 INTs. Looked good against FAMU. Actually, he played in the game against FAMU, did not have a bad performance. I don't think he threw any interceptions. So offensively, Fort Valley has some stuff to work with. So I'll be interested to see what Wilson and Jackson do. Anything on Fort Valley?
Me. Yeah, interesting thing with their schedule. Fort Valley, 4 neutral site games, 2 home games. Oh. Very interesting when you look at their schedule. So, and those neutral site games: Montgomery, Alabama, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Macon, Georgia, and Columbus, Georgia.
Well, Fort Valley, they travel well. It's a good fan base. So, good
neutral
trips.
site games. Just for those of y'all who don't know code word, neutral site games usually mean check games also.
Okay. Kentucky State, next team up. Did the Charlie Jackson culture shift stick? I think he came in and brought a new culture to Kentucky State, along with a new offense and new attitude on defense. Whoever the new coach is, and again, unfortunately we don't have that information. I don't see it on the Kentucky State website. Don't see it on the SIAC website. We'll find out Wednesday, and I'd be curious to see what happens.
Kentucky State. Let's hope the price of diesel goes down before football season begins for Kentucky State. Let's look at their road games. They travel to Dayton. They travel to let me back that up. They play Fort Valley in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Then the next week they travel to Dayton. Then they travel to play Benedict. Then the week after that, they travel back to that region to play Savannah State. Then they go to Jackson, Tennessee to play Lane before they finally get their second home game against Allen. Then it's back on the road against Miles College. And last but not least, they travel to Wilberforce, Ohio. So look at those road games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 road games, and those are some miles coming out of Frankfort, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm. All right, Lane College. Lane. The one thing that I'm interested to look at, Lane had the number, I just pulled this up. They had the number 3 passing offense last year, right behind Allen and Benedict. Just told you about their quarterback situations and how good those were. Lane had the number 3 passing offense. They also had the number 1 passing efficiency offense, but the defense, which Lane had historically had a pretty good defense, was middle of the road last year. So, what will Lane look like offensively going into this season?
Lane, 2 division. I believe they're the only team with 2 Division 1s on their schedule as they play UAPB and Tennessee State this upcoming season on the road.
Any chance UAPB? Any chance, given how poor UAPB was a year ago, any chance that might be upset alert?
It's week 1. If there's a chance for an upset alert, that's when it would occur.
Yeah, for sure. Next up, getting into the M's, we got Miles College. I think everything starts and begins with Coach Shade, well known there in the state of Alabama, taking over for what did Coach Ruffin leave in the cupboards? Because he made the announcement. It wasn't like in early January. I think the announcement that he was taking over or leaving came in late in the spring, if I'm not mistaken, didn't it?
Yeah, it was right before
spring
ball. Spring, yes.
Okay, yeah, right before spring ball. So, what is we looked at the schedule. Is Miles still a contender, even though they got a new coach?
Miles may realistically go into homecoming on October 15th. Win this, Brian. Let's look at what they opened the season with: Alabama State, West Alabama, Valdosta State. Now they play Central State week 4, which you would think would be an opportunity for a win. But coming off of Alabama State, West Alabama, and Valdosta State, that's gonna be a game where you may not have enough healthy bodies. Then you got Albany State the week after that.
That's a road game.
Then you got
That's three
you got
straight road games.
Central State, Albany State, and Benedict all on the road.
Yeah.
After you've been beat up by West Alabama and Valdosta State.
Yeah, look at that first 4. Those first 4, actually the first 4, because you got Albany State in there. So if you're looking at that Central State,
Alabama
game,
State and Albany State,
that's a brutal first half of the season there for Miles. All right, Morehouse, going over to Morehouse, of course, Coach Freeman, year number 16. Who is Miles or Morehouse? Excuse me. Morehouse. I think we didn't talk much about Morehouse last year, and then what do you know? Morehouse ended up having a a season where they were 4-2 in the conference, 4-6. They were challenging there for a minute for second place in the East. I think that speaks volumes. So I mean, what's the identity of the house this year?
What's the identity of the house? The identity of the house may be winless this year.
Oh no, they'll get a win. Come on now, don't do that.
Okay, all right. West Alabama, West Georgia, Howard, Savannah State. The only
Savannah.
thing that benefits Morehouse is that they've got their hard games at home. You've got West Alabama at home. You've got West Georgia at home. You've got Savannah at home. You've got Benedict at home, and you've got Clark at home. But I don't see more than 2 wins for the house this year.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Savannah State because they're next on the list. The biggest thing is, who will Savannah State be? Because that was one of the things Sean Quinn came in. Sean Quinn had an identity for that team, changed them from a passing offense to an option, an option pistol
option.
They had the right personnel, pistol option type of offense.
But a lot of that personnel has graduated also.
And the coaching staff, you had Coach Demasi, who you thought was going to, he coached them in the spring. You thought he was going to get a chance to carry that over, and then they pulled the rug from up underneath him. They hired somebody else. He leaves. What do you have over there at Savannah State?
You got a cluster, what?
Yeah, this was a team that I was like really excited about a year ago. I mean, Savannah State, remember, they came into that game against Albany State. They were challenging for a title. Now, will Savannah State stay near the top, or will they fall back to the bottom of whatever division, if they go divisions, what it'll look like? And then last but not least, Tuskegee.
Wait a minute, hold on.
Oh, go ahead.
Good thing about Savannah. Hey, we know they're gonna win homecoming. They got Lynchburg.
Do they really?
Yes,
they do. Well, there's a win. All right, so they'll get a win. They'll get a win there.
The donations should come in. They got Lynchburg for homecoming.
Tuskegee. Non-conference. They start off with Fort Valley State in the name of the classic escapes me. The
Red Tails.
Red Tails Classic.
Boeing Red Tail Classic.
Boeing Red Tails Classic. Thank you. And then they play at Hampton and then at West Alabama before taking on Allen. Drew, give us the breakdown. What's your thoughts on your alma mater, your second alma mater there, Tuskegee?
I don't know if everybody realizes the significance of the Hampton game. Considering that
what is significant?
The founder of Tuskegee University, Dr. Booker T. Washington, was a graduate of Hampton Institute and was brought down from Hampton Institute to start Tuskegee, what was then Tuskegee Institute, now Tuskegee University. So that's the significance of these two teams playing each other, because these are both Booker T. Washington institutions.
So is this the Booker T. Washington Classic?
It should be, but
it should be.
No one was. I guess no one was brave enough to put that out there. Or maybe they didn't get the rights to do that. Other thing is, will they score against Fort Valley this year in Crampton Bowl in the Red Tails Classic? Obviously, there's a challenging game against West Alabama, but actually after that, when Tuskegee gets into conference play, they've got an opportunity to kind of roll through the conference.
Yeah,
and when you look at it, they play Clark after Clark has just played Albany State. They play Morehouse. Where the Morehouse game, Morehouse would have played Edward Waters. That would maybe challenging. They've got Central State after Central State has played Fort Valley State. So they're playing a lot of their teams after other teams after they played a tough game against somebody. So there may be opportunity to get some wins that way, because
teams are tired, teams may be beat up when they face Tuskegee.
One of the things that, as I look at the schedule and the schedule matrix, there are no bye weeks. I mean, there's a couple of schools that strategically, I mean, Edward Waters, for example, has a bye week in week 3, but that's because they're playing
week 0.
Florida Memorial in week 0.
That's it. That's it.
Allen has a bye week in week 9 because they're playing Edward Waters in week 11, but there's really no bye. It's literally 10.
But Division 2 is like that though. If you look throughout Division 2, there are no bye weeks.
Right. Yeah. Nobody. There are no days off in Division 2. It's 10 straight weeks. Now, obviously, the reason that is, I guess. Well, you know what? We got to backtrack. What we should say is the more realistic way of saying it, Drew, is because the SIAC plays a championship game in week 11. That technically is a reserved game for everybody. Because if they weren't playing
they'd be like the rest of the conferences playing 11 games.
Or they could play 10 and you could have a bye week somewhere. So
Correct.
Yeah, so it just, the advantages or of playing a championship game in the SIAC, that's sort of what you give up.
And the CIAA.
And the CIAA, that's what you give up. So again, we talk about, I don't know, I don't think it, how does it have an effect? I don't know. Have you ever heard anybody complain about the effect of playing that championship game and going into the playoffs?
No, because everybody plays that week 11 and goes straight to the playoffs. It's just Division 2. If if you're going to make a championship run in Division 2, you're going to have to play 14, 15, 16 consecutive weeks. It's just a known fact at that level.
Love it. Let's go. What's your big game? 1 or 2 big games, and then we're going to wrap it up here. Big game of the season. What's the 1 or 2 games you're most looking forward to this year?
I'm going to stay away from the obvious one. Go
non-conference. Let's go there. Let's go non-conference first, because that's an easy 3-week window that we can kind of look at. What's the non-conference game you're most?
Non-conference game, it has to be. Well, I'm just gonna say the Albany State schedule. Got Mississippi College at home. They've got Shorter on the road. Those are 2 games I really want to see, because those are going to be measuring sticks for the conference itself. Because Albany State is, the last couple of years, has been one of the elite teams in the conference. Let's see when they play these 2 Gulf South teams in the first 3 weeks, because that was the difference between Albany State getting into the playoffs last year and them not getting into the playoffs. Was what they were able to do early in the season to beat Mississippi College and having a good showing against Valdosta State last year. One other game. Let's see. I'm just looking and seeing.
Hold on. Pause for a second. Made me think about something when you mentioned Albany State. Are they preseason ranked?
I haven't seen any preseason rankings yet, but they were number 40 according to the matrix that I used earlier this week.
Good.
Yes,
40.
they were number 40.
Wow. I have to ask Coach Gabe how many guys he lost on that defensive side of the ball. That's ridiculous, man. They should be top 25, I would think, unless they lost a lot of guys. I'm not really sure.
Right.
Right. You didn't mention FAMU. I'm surprised you didn't mention Alabama State FAMU as being a big non-conference game.
That's Albany State FAMU.
Yeah, who did I say? Albany State, yeah.
Alabama State. You said Alabama State.
Albany State. Yeah, Albany State.
Because that game means nothing for Albany State. That game means nothing for FAMU when it comes to either one of them getting into the playoffs. I'm really interested to see the week 1 and week 3, because those are the games that count for Albany State.
Okay. What was your other game or 2 non-conference?
Well, always, anytime you've got a SIAC CIAA matchup, you want to see which conference is better. We've got some in week 1. Benedict takes on Elizabeth City. Benedict travels to Elizabeth City. Central State and Winston-Salem play. I believe that is
that's the Hall of Fame.
The Hall of Fame Classic. Yes, I believe that is the
Canton,
Hall of Fame.
Ohio.
Right. So those are 2.
I think those are the only two CIAA, SIAC. Oh, and then one in week 2, Allen and Johnson C. Smith play each other. So those are the 3 times where you've got CIAA, SIAC matchups. But you do have a couple of opponents playing Bluefield State. I want to see what Bluefield State does as an independent in their second year of playing football against SIAC competitions to try to make their way into the CIAA hopefully one day.
And I hope that whomever becomes the new commissioner of the SIAC gets with the commissioner of the CIAA, and there has to be a CIAA versus SIAC week in one of those 3 weeks. There should be at least 6. I don't know, make it a contest, a commissioner's cup, something. Give me 7 games, 7 teams that play each other on week.
Well, it could be
I
done.
don't know,
It could be done over 2 weeks. It could be you could get a bunch of teams to play week 2, bunch of teams to play week 3. That way, everybody can still go out and schedule their other games accordingly.
I think it would be I think it would be
or maybe even week 1, split it up. Week 1, week 2, week 3.
Whatever, yeah, I think it'd be a win for Black college football at the Division II level for your 2 premier conferences to play each other, make a big deal out of it. Winner take, put the champions or the teams that we expect to maybe be the top tier teams, match them up or give us something. We're missing the opportunity to really promote the conferences and the football history of these 2 historic conferences by not making this happen. I just want to make my annual pitch to anybody that'll listen. I know our guy Chris Ferguson. He hears me make this pitch every year that we get a chance to talk to him. But I'm going to start it early. All right. Any more non-conference games before you go to your conference game?
Nah, that's it on the non-conference.
You know what? I'm going to throw the Edward Waters Florida Memorial game in week 0 in there. Okay. I was really entertained last year at Edward Waters.
It was a good game last year.
It was a very good game, and I hope that Florida Memorial brings the same energy that Edward Waters did. There was a good contingent of Florida Memorial folks who came to that game in Jacksonville, and so I hope that the folks in Jacksonville drive down. And that's week 0. So
there's only 2 games that weekend anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's either the BX Challenge or the Big Cat Classic.
Yeah. All right, conference game. What's the target or highlight game that you're looking at? Give me 2, your best 2. That's it.
Oh, obviously, Fort Valley, Albany State at the end of the year. Got to go to that one. The Fountain City Classic, Fort Valley, Albany State, because I think that's going to in the past that has been the game that has come down to decide the Eastern champion. Don't know if that's going to be the case this year, but I think that's going to be a game to watch. And obviously, I'm staying away from the obvious ones. Tuskegee Clark just to see that one.
Come on,
just to see that one pan
that one has to be circled. Week 5. That's got to be on the cert. That's got to be circled.
I don't know which one. I don't know which one needs to be circled more though. Tuskegee Clark or Tuskegee Miles. That's why I almost got to stay away from both of them, because both of them I'm going to have circled on my personal calendar. But I don't know if anybody outside the Tuskegee. I don't know if anybody outside the Tuskegee family really cares about those 2 games.
You don't think Tuskegee cares about the Clark?
No, I say anybody outside of the Tuskegee family.
Well, look, you've got 2 of the winningest coaches, 2 of the 3 winningest coaches playing their old program. So, I mean,
yeah.
And then the fact that you have Clark versus Tuskegee, I mean, that's just – what was the stat you brought up? How many wins in a row, or what's the record? I mean, of late, Coach Ruffin has sort of owned the matchups against Coach Slater, has he not?
Yes, he has. And if you give me a minute, I'll finish compiling that because I was looking at that earlier.
So while you're looking for that, here I'll give you two games that I'm interested in. Week 7, Albany State hosting Benedict. I think Benedict is a team that'll be in contention this year, and that's a game that I think Benedict. And now the bad part for Benedict, and I don't know your matrix. Your matrix somehow, Drew, doesn't have any home games for Benedict. So I don't know if this is in a stretch of no home games or why. But hold on, I'm gonna go to. I got Benedict's page pulled up right here because I want to make sure that okay. So when they are at Albany State on October 15th, this is on the heels of being home against Miles. So, and so I don't, there's no advantage, but Benedict lost some very close games last year at that point of the season, early in September. I just got a feeling Benedict is going to put it together this upcoming year. I'll be interested to see that. And then I think the other game that I told you I'm all in on. I want to see the Clark Tuskegee. It may not be a good game. Who knows? It could be a blowout, but I'm interested. I'm all for it. And then I'm telling you the Edward Waters Allen University game is intriguing to me. Even though it's the end of the season, really doesn't make a difference. I just think offensively, that game might be a lot of points. So I'm kind of looking for that game. And you also pointed out the Fort Valley Albany State game. Fort Valley, if Fort Valley is in the hunt, then I'm going to look to week 5 when they play Benedict as a spotlight game for Fort Valley. All right, that's it for me. What do you got? Did you find what you were looking for?
Yeah, Miles was since 2010. Miles has been 5-6 against Tuskegee, but they have won 3 in a row.
All right, Miles has won 3 in a row. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's gonna wrap it up. That's gonna do it. Here. Who do you think is gonna be the conference favorite? Who do you think? Again, this is we don't know how they're gonna
say that for Wednesday. Say that for our live show. We'll make our predictions on our live show. But one last thing, I hope our producers still can we put up the graphic of the all-time winningest HBCUs?
Yeah, I gotta take issue with that. You threw me for a loop with that.
Well, and I'm gonna tell you why. What we discussed about earlier is office because of after sanctions and violations.
Is that how you're doing it? Oh, come on.
No, that's what the NCAA has done. That's what the NCAA did after they took away wins.
That's bull. Anyway.
Yes.
We played the games. With $6.99. Are we sure Tuskegee's not over 700 yet? Are you sure? You're not even sure.
Because they haven't given them credit for forfeits that they received. So this is the official NCAA statistic through last season, through 2021.
All right, so Tuskegee coming in at $6.99. Virginia State number 2 by nearly 100 games. Then Southern, Hampton, Grambling State, Tennessee State, Virginia Union right there with Tennessee State, and then Florida A&M 573, followed up by South Carolina State, North Carolina A&T, Howard, Bethune. All right. Don't see Jackson State on that list, though. Okay.
But all right, let's go to the next graphic, the final graphic.
All right. The
Jackson State's is actually a newer program comparatively speaking.
Really? How so?
Well, the years that they've played. Jackson State, you got to think about Grambling. Grambling didn't start until 1941. Some of those other programs started in the early 1900s or late 1800s that had those wins, which makes Grambling's rise up here. Look at their win percentage. They didn't start until 1941.
Okay.
That's the
Grambling,
Jackson
all-time
family.
winningest football program. I know Graham family's
Percentage.
going percentage. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, 683. That's pretty good. Of course, many of those
Most of
years
that's Eddie
during
Robinson.
the Eddie Robinson era. Tennessee State. The official rankings. What official rankings? Oh, before. Okay. Oh. Okay. So
We have our graphic ready. I'm not prepared to give them today.
I think the predicted order. Well, see, then again, we don't. If we go off our matrix of saying it's an we're not non-division because there'll be no division.
Yeah, because see, I don't know how to put it together, whether to put it in divisional format and non-divisional format before I make my decisions.
Well, because then you have to go into really looking at the conference schedule and saying who has the toughest conference schedule and who doesn't. That's what you really got to look at. I just think by nature, what people are going to vote. I'm just going to go on a limb.
Albany State will be one.
Albany
Albany State will be
one.
one. Go ahead.
Will they go? I don't think they'll go Miles too. I really don't.
No.
No. I will not be surprised to see. I can't think of new. I don't think a new coach.
I would say Lane will probably come in number 2.
That'll be interesting. See, I was gonna go Benedict too. I think Benedict too. I just got a weird feeling.
But I think you can flip flop Lane and Benedict. They're 2-3. I think they'll come in 2-3.
See, I think the fact that you have new coaches, will Tuskegee get love? New coach,
I think Tuskegee get more love than Clark or Central.
Look at the 6 returning coaches. That's what I'm looking at. And so among the 6 coaches that are returning, unless you're gonna say Morehouse is 2, which who knows? Somebody may say Morehouse. Morehouse probably get some votes. So so I'm gonna say Albany State 1, and it'll either be Benedict or Morehouse at 2, and whoever doesn't finish 2 will be 3. That's my.
I'm gonna throw Lane up there as far as how I think they're gonna pick.
Okay, interesting. Offensive Player of the Year, I think it'll be David Wright III. I think he will be the preseason Offensive Player of the Year. Either he or Eric Phoenix will split votes. So one of those two, but I just got to think. Wright's the one who's getting sort of the preseason buzz. I think somebody's rankings had him as the number 8 HBCU quarterback. So he's the one that's already getting the attention. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him. I thought he was bigger than 5'10". I'm not gonna lie, I really did. I thought he was bigger than. So that's pretty amazing. But that's how that goes. All right, Drew, you had a couple of non-sports stories that you want to wrap up with, so I'm going to give you that to mention that real quick.
Do we want to do them? Because we already long. We already over.
We are. So I mean, we can hold it. I mean, it's not going anywhere.
We hold. But number one, condolences to the Alabama State family. With the loss. Forgive me. I gotta find his name.
Oh, that's ahead of his name.
The linebacker at Alabama State. See if you can help me find that name, Brian.
You're making me do a quick search here, and I'm not finding it. Oh God. See, you shouldn't go to condolences, Drew, if you don't have it ready.
I had it, and then I've Googled so much stuff.
I saw it come across. Somebody posted it in the chats. You can go to the Alabama State page and look it up. But yeah. So
last name is Harris. AWYSUM.
Okay. Um, was there a story, or what do we know about his passing?
We just know. Let me pull it up right quick. I just know the condolences. Alabama State University Saturday announced the passing of sophomore linebacker Oswald Harris from Decatur, Alabama. The athletic department mourns the loss of one of his talented student athletes. Our deepest sympathy is extended to his family. That's pretty much what it says. It has nothing about how he died or anything like that. It's just thoughts and prayers are with Mr. Harris. And he was a sophomore linebacker from Decatur, Alabama. Also, the Raiders have hired the first black female team president in the NFL. Her name is Sandra Douglas Morgan. So even though that's not HBCU related, it is something of note. And also in the NHL, Kevin Weeks, that's Weeke. Excuse me, Mike Grier. Excuse me, Mike Grier became the first African American general manager of the San Jose Sharks. That's what it is. I got the name wrong. As reported by Kevin Weeks, Weekes.
Oh, okay, I got you.
That's why I had it
All right,
backwards.
I
Yeah.
got you. Okay.
So even though they're not directly HBCU related, we got some black folks out here doing some positive things, being some of the first in some of the major professional leagues.
Yeah, I saw a couple of people post the young man from Alabama State, natural causes, overnight. Very sad. Very sad. Tough. Tough news to hear. And I know that the Grambling State, or I'm sorry, Alabama State
Alabama
program,
State.
and that family will
Swarm as
have
one for this
to.
young man, as they say at Alabama
Yeah,
State. They like to swarm as one.
there you go. All right. Well, that's going to do it. And I keep looking at that all-time winners football programs. Anyway, it is what it is. Blue Bloods.
Percentage wise.
Mount
Notice Albany State's in there
is that
percentage
the
wise.
Mount Rushmore? Is that the Mount Rushmore? The Blue Bloods right there. 1, 2,
What,
3,
those
4.
top four?
Yeah, I would say so.
We
Wouldn't you?
we could go with our Greensboro four, as we like to call them around here. But that
No, it's the 4. That's the 4. When you say blue blood, that's what you're talking about, right? Come on now.
I
Legendary.
can
Look, hold
pretty
on.
much go.
Legendary coaches, legendary wins.
Let's see.
Does anybody have more
Eddie Robinson.
Does anybody have more
Big John
HBCU
Barrett.
national titles than those 4
With
schools
those four.
individually?
No.
Okay.
No.
Mount Rushmore right there.
No.
Everybody else,
No,
be quiet.
you are absolutely right. I believe Tennessee State, Graham, that may be the top four on the list right there. Tuskegee, Khalif Abbott, Florida A&M, Jake Gaither.
Yeah.
That's a tough list to beat.
Yeah, you you guys tell us for the later, you tweet us or you send us real quick, post it in the chat. Does anybody outside of that top 4 belong on the Mount Rushmore? Anybody else that you would consider a blue
And don't put Jackson State in there. I know we're gonna hit some Jackson State in there.
Too late.
You know. Nothing personal, but Jackson State is more of a new is new. Jackson State is part of the last 30 years. They don't have the tradition in the early 1900s. Matter of fact, and I'll tell you why they don't have the tradition in the early 1900s, because Jackson State did not begin football until 1946.
Okay. Man, Drew with the history lesson, folks. See, boy, when you've been hanging there as the adjunct professor, Drew. I see some of that knowledge from Doc and Charles and Mike. Boy, it's rubbing off on you.
Can you guess of the current Division Ones who has the oldest football program?
Ooh, okay, hold on. What? Say that again.
Of the current FCSs, Division Ones, HBCUs, who has played football for the longest?
Tennessee State.
No.
I was wrong.
Tennessee State,
Okay.
1912.
Ooh, wow. Okay. I'm not sure if
Got to go
Florida
back
A&M
further
was
than that.
before. I don't know if Florida A&M was before 1912.
1907. Keep going.
Wow, somebody even before then? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Man, Drew, this is interesting.
And we know the CIAA, y'all. We know y'all got the
But they're
oldest
a
football
current
program. We just talk
FCS though.
current.
They're current
We talking current
FCS.
FCSs. Yes.
Would it be Grambling? I mean, does it make sense that it's
No,
Grambling? Please tell.
Grambling, 1941.
David Garner says Prairie View A&M.
Prairie View, 1923.
Oh wow. Okay, man. Okay.
Are you ready for the clue?
I'm ready because I can't figure it out here.
Say BAC SWAC challenge. You got a 50% chance to get it right.
Is it one of the schools? Not one of the schools in North Carolina. No, probably one of the schools in North Carolina.
This year's BAC SWAC challenge.
Oh, Howard?
You are correct. 1893.
Damn, Howard's been playing football since 1893?
Yes. And ironically,
and they're not on this list, huh? Wow. Okay,
and guess who's number?
Stop. Quiet.
Ironically, guess who's number 2? Brian, guess who's number 2?
Was it before 1900s?
1901.
Oh. Well, okay,
Yeah.
so
Okay,
Morgan
I
State.
gave you the
Morgan State.
I've already given you the hint, Brian.
Alabama
BAC
State?
SWAC challenge. Yes.
What?
The BAC
Get out
SWAC
of here.
challenge, and I did not know this until today. Between the two oldest current Division I HBCUs. Alabama State began playing football in 1901. Howard began playing football in 1893. Next up on the list behind them is Hampton in 1902.
Okay, so there's your
now here's the asterisk. Hampton has
oh
played
boy.
119 years, but Alabama State has played 116 years because obviously some of these schools stopped playing during the various wars.
Yes. All right, so there's your little
Little known history fact.
Little known black college football history fact there by AD Drew that this year's MEAC SWAC challenge features the two oldest HBCU Division I programs. Wow.
According to the NCAA.
According to the NCAA. I wonder if ESPN will mention that.
They probably
they don't have a.
I wouldn't even look known that if I would have looked up this information today. It was just something that I was like, oh my god.
Well, see, if it pops up,
by the way,
if it pops up, it'll be. Go ahead. Yeah, that's what I was going to give you credit.
Valley is the newest Division I program. Their program began in 1953.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, hey, that's all good. All right, man. Hey, good stuff today. Super long show, but that's what happens when we come off vacation. We get long-winded on some good topics. Great interaction by you guys watching us on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you're following us on all the social media platforms at my BCSN1, the number one, Facebook, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you're watching us on YouTube, hopefully you've hit that thumbs up button and you have already subscribed to the channel. Don't forget, Tuesday night, the Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central, and that show will air. You can always go find all of our shows that air on the Black College Sports Network on the BCSN Pod Zone. So in podcast format is where you can find the shows, all of the shows, from Carlos Brown, the O&G Strike Zone, Dr. Cavill. Sometimes Charles Edmond drops some bombs on there with Brave Talk from Alcorn State. We even get the pregame show every now and then. We get their shows. And then, of course, you get our show. So a lot of good HBCU athletics content in one place. Go find the BCSN Pod Zone everywhere you listen and download podcast. Go whatever your service is that you're Spotify, Apple, give us a rating, a like, a review, and that helps the algorithms continue to give us good ratings. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you guys for hanging in there. Appreciate the commentary, great feedback, great information. We catch us live on Wednesday morning, the SIAC Media Day, Football Media Day. I don't know what time we're going to start and go live. I know the SIAC will be broadcasting on their YouTube channel beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. And then I would imagine sometime around 10-ish maybe, we'll go live and we'll be doing some live interviews with some of the various coaches and players. Myself, AD Drew, Roy Evans will all be there as well. So Jamie Walker is going to be in the house. That's cool. All right. So that's good. So that'll be a good time. That's going to be at the College Football Hall of Fame. So SIAC does a real good job with that. So there's Jamie. I see Jamie just jumped in. So, all right, that's going to do it for this show. For our producer, Roy, thanks for all your input and commentary. Great stuff as always. And for you guys watching, AD Drew, I'm Brian Fulford. That's going to do it for tonight. We'll see you guys Wednesday morning live from the College Football Hall of Fame SIAC Football Media Day. Looking forward to it. The first of the Big Four conferences. We can't wait. Football is here. You're watching the Sports Wrap. Be safe, be smart, and we'll see you then. God bless. Good night.